I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.
One time or one form of abuse, and then once you realize you've been abused, then you start to, your brain tells you, hey, I don't want to have this feeling of abuse again. So you would cower down. If you've been hit, you wouldn't fight back. You know, these are all trauma responses. And then maybe you would get high off of Xanax and you know, you'd want to release from your body. And Kathy talked about how, you know, she would just kind of be numb and take the Xanax and release from her body. So, and just let the freak off happen because she just wanted to make him happy. That was a form of abuse. Right. And so the lady was breaking this all down. Even Dawn, how Dawn was on the stand, forgetting some of her, you know, forgetting her stories and kind of falling all over the place, having memory loss and, you know, and then being triggered at times. That could have been a form of she could have been traumatized because she was intimidated, emotionally or mentally abused. You know what I mean? Tortured because Diddy thought Diddy gave her 2 different careers and stripped them from her. You know what I mean? Had her in Danity Kane and had her in Dirty Money, stripped her. Maybe
had her. So these are not grown women, right? That put themselves in these positions. Diddy is not their husband. He's not their caretaker. He's their boss. You know, we're on a slippery slope right now. We're not too far away from the time when we're going to see women filing lawsuits against their landlords for sex trafficking them, because there's going to be women that are going to say all the money from me being forced to sell myself went towards paying rent. So my landlord is my abuser. This bill collector is my abuser. The federal government taking money, the money I'm paying the federal government for student loan back pay is from me having to sell my body. The government is my abuser. We are dangerously close. Now, the reason I'm playing this guy is because he's obviously LGBTQ elemental P. Lots of people are on here. He's a man. He's black, obviously, but he's speaking as if he's a woman, as if he's not the kind of person that would be the one who will be considered the aggressor just because he has a XY chromosome. He's pretending to be a woman, and that's why listening to him is interesting, because you get to see how everyone just projects lies and victimhood. He talks about everything except the charges. Well, Diddy's guilty of giving this woman 2 different careers. What the fuck does that, bro? And then he keeps bringing up baby oil, probably because I'll be honest, he's gay. Let's just be honest. And what he's waiting for is, or what the rest of the gay community is waiting for, they're waiting to find out if Diddy is gay or not before they can pass judgment. They are waiting to hear that Diddy was punished by the Punisher. But until then, they don't know if they're on Diddy's side or not, because they think he's gay. They think he's a pedophile, which is in their realm. That's what they like. That's what they want. But none of the testimony is saying that. And that's kind of putting them on the fence. That's why he's straddling the fence. No Diddy. Well, for him, low Diddy. So I'll let him finish talking.
Maybe even David James, the assistant, he was nervous, but you know, he was manipulated financially. He was financially abused. Diddy would, you know, he was paying him. That was his job. So he had to go along.
So Diddy's God. He's financially abusing. Basically, nobody has no choice. Diddy is the one source of income for the whole fucking universe. He's your Lord and Savior. You can't go work somewhere else. You can't quit. But how did Cassie get a husband, get married, and leave Diddy and still alive to tell about it if he's God Almighty? How did all these people go find other jobs and other lines of work if Diddy was their only source of income and he can manipulate them? Bro, nobody wants to be accountable for themselves. Hopefully a jury is smarter than this. But all this weak bitch ass, oh, I'm the victim, I'm such a victim. Man, shut the, bro, get out of here.
We're riding in the cars with guns, and he was so traumatized by it, he started grabbing up the damn choking up the chef lady.
So he's traumatized because he rode in a car with a gun, and he was so traumatized that he choked up a chef. And this is why people don't trust and they ignore this community when they talk about stuff.
or then he was doing the ecstasy because he didn't want to piss anybody off. He was afraid. You know, everybody, and even the Punisher, he's traumatized so far that he had to go write a book talking about freezer meat because he talked about how his anxiety was up because, you know, they wanted him to perform a certain kind of.
Diddy and Cassie were not his only customers. They're not the only customers. So for you to say that they traumatized, bro, this is a reach. And I think today is the day that because I think they asked Diddy if he was gay and Diddy said no. And I think now this is going to be the gay community now is going to be pushing, saying he should go to jail and yada, yada, because they don't want to, they've been neutral until today, when I guess they found out. They're like, wait a minute. So this guy's not even a pedophile. He's not even gay. He's not one of us. And now they're mad.
Way. And if he didn't perform that way, he wouldn't get paid or he wasn't good enough. And so he's traumatized. Now he's getting erectile dysfunction. And so everybody can find themselves in some sort of under the umbrella of abuse. And
well, maybe Diddy's also traumatized. He had a woman that he could never satisfy. That's traumatic. Made you feel less than a man, that you got to find other men because you can't seem to fulfill the job. I think Diddy's traumatized too, but nobody wants to talk about that, right?
Trauma, which leads into the trafficking, the coercion, and, you know, we can get.
There is no trafficking and there is no coercion. Matter of fact, the judge came out earlier today, which nobody's reporting on, and said that he's not seeing the coercion. You being in a relationship with a woman and she's like, well, you know, I'm only going to do this and this because I want to make you happy. That's not coercion. That's called being in a relationship. Do you think I wanted to watch the movie The Notebook or any chick flicks? No. I pretended I did so that I could get laid. Is that traumatic for me because I had to lie about what I'm happy doing, which is watching chick flicks and you know, I don't want to eat ice cream at 4 a.m. It's too much sugar. But if she wants to, guess what I do? I do what she wants to do to keep her happy. Women can do the same. So now typical relationship dynamics are going to be criminalized to the point where anything she did for you in the past can be criminalized. But what about all the money and stuff I spent on her? Can I get that money back and sue her for fraud if we're not together anymore? Because that's what Diddy said when he wanted his money back from Cassie. And her mom sent that 20 grand. And Diddy's nice. He's a nice guy. He actually sent the money back. But he caught her daughter cheating on him after everything he's been doing for her. He couldn't even earn loyalty with good behavior. He couldn't earn it at all. So now even everyone's a victim, even the valet guy, because he had to work in the heat and he's victimized by his boss. You chose to take that job. Hold yourself accountable. Be an adult. So to hear a grown-ass man talk like he's a victim, it's just interesting to see because I don't get to see this in real life because I don't know people from this community. But just to watch them and their rationale and their mindset, it shows you that there's a division in this country. We can't coexist. There's no way we can coexist. Not like this.
All the way into the racketeering and all of that stuff. So that was the case that woman, I feel, was making, you know, and the defense, they didn't like that. Okay. And some things that they were talking about. They talk about what are the three main reasons that victims stay in domestic violent relationships. And the lady said it's not just about hitting.
What about this is not a domestic violence case? Do people not understand? Is anybody listening to this right now that cannot understand that this is not a domestic violence case? Can anybody beat this into the head of these fucking idiots? This is not a domestic violence charge. This is sex trafficking, prostitution, transportation, and racketeering, not domestic violence. You can't just make up new cases because this is how you're going to end up disappointed when he walks on the charges because he's not guilty of them. Is he guilty of being a toxic boyfriend? They're both guilty of being in a toxic relationship. It's by choice. She has a car. Instead of going to Diddy's house, she could go somewhere else. Obviously, she went to Kid Cudi's house. She went to fucking Alex Fine's house. She can go other places. Why? Bro, Diddy's the victim here, not Cassie at all.
It's about emotional abuse and psychological abuse. She said love and attention. creates an instant psychological bond. Love and attention creates an instant psychological bond that makes it hard to leave. Psychological disorders that can create people to become scared and try to find a way to get out. It's not about hitting. It's about the physical and emotional connection. So I think that she was basically saying like, hey, you know, even if you hit a person, it's the love that you get, that you think, well, I want that love back from that person. I want the love back from said person that I was with.
You know, now I'm starting to understand why Tyler Perry does so good with the blacks and the gay community. They all mentally live in a Tyler Perry movie. Different ones, different types of Medea, and different ones where Blair Underwood is just beating the dog breaks off of a woman. They mentally all live in a Tyler Perry universe, right? And when they think and they talk and they live, it's kind of like they're in one universe and in the other. That's why it seems like they're only half in reality and they're half in this make-believe universe, which is just insane that they don't live in the real world. Everything is just pretending that there's a victim and then there's a demon or evil man who's bro, no, you're a man too. You're the evil person in this equation. If anything, your new boyfriend's going to say you coerced them and they weren't even gay and you forced them. I mean, think about it. If we allow things to get this far, this country is done. And when I say done, I don't mean, you know, what I mean is that the population is already collapsing. Men no longer feel comfortable or safe marrying women in America, not American women. Men no longer even feel comfortable getting women pregnant and having children in this country. They don't feel comfortable because it's too risky. At any given point in time, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be the abuser and she's going to be the victim. Any woman you choose. I don't care how much in love you are. When you look at that woman after you listen to me speak, realize and look at her and say to yourself, how am I going to feel eventually when she decides to sue me? Eventually, somebody's going to paint you as the bad guy. And that's why a lot of men are just saying, I'm done. Without babies and without children being born, there is no population. Without a population, there's no social services because there's no taxable income and things fall apart. This man right here is not a part of society because he's gay. He will not be reproducing. He's already taken himself out of the equation. So here he is helping destroy the society that I have to live and reproduce in and making it so that it's less desirable to reproduce and be a part of. He's a part of it. Pushing these narratives where all men are bad and all women are good is fucking ridiculous. And it's the reason why men are now having to relocate to other countries to find wives. This guy is getting listened to by, look at all these comments. And people are actually, and I'm seeing some people saying, no, that doesn't make sense. But overall, these are women and gay people that are following him and that are literally agreeing with the nonsense. If everybody's a victim, then who's going to want to deal with somebody knowing you're going to call me a victim? Like if I was white, I wouldn't hire nobody black anymore. All you're going to do is call me a racist when you get fired or when you're written up. I'm not hiring you anymore. Sue me, sue my company. I understand why now. Because you can't have victims around you because they're going to always say that you're the one victimizing them. So no, we're not getting married. So you can divorce me and say that I was abusive and then get a no-fault divorce or try to take my house and say I hit you when I never touched you. I've seen that happen to men too. No, we're not going to have kids. And then you can, do what DDG's girlfriend did and get a restraining order, make up some fake story about somebody pushing you. And now I can't see my son, but you want me to pay money for a fucking kid? Get that, bro. We're not doing it anymore. We're going our own way. And that's and we're just going towards women in other places. We're just not able to do it here. It's just dangerous. Too many men like this with women that listen to gay men. These women will listen to whatever a gay man says, but they'll turn down a straight guy and argue with him. It's a shame.
And so maybe I can make it work. Maybe it's me. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe if I don't talk too much, maybe if I don't do this, maybe if I don't do that, and then, you have those people that will love bomb you. Your abuser comes in, abuses you, but then they shower you in gifts. And we know that That's how Diddy works, because what did he tell David James when David James grabbed up Chef Jordan? Write her a letter and give her a gift. Love bomb her, and that's the way you apologize and get her back.
That's not love bombing. If you do something wrong and you want to say you're sorry, that's called apologizing. That's called being remorseful. People are human. People make mistakes. You know, I remember one time I accused somebody of stealing my wallet. It turns out I was drunk and I hid my wallet from myself, but I accused some people at my house of taking it. And you know what I did the next day? I bought everybody dinner and I apologized because I was wrong. That's not me love bombing these people. That's me being apologetic because I made a mistake. What universe do these people live in that where no one is a regular person and everybody's a victim of something? And that's why you can't trust these people, bro.
You abuse her, then you love bomb her. And so the person stays because they're like, well, he cares about me again.
And you got to understand, listen to how these people talk about what they consider abuse. The threshold, in their opinion, if a person looks at you the wrong way or cuts their eyes the wrong way, that's abuse. Because of his background and his communities in, they say words are abuse. They believe with the woman, I believe her name is Sybil. I forgot her name, but she called the little kid the N-word. They believe that's more violent than what Carmelo did to Austin Metcalf. These people live in an upside down universe. That's why I said this is going to come to a head eventually. We're not going to be able to occupy the same space for much longer. And our communities keep coming closer and closer to a blowout with one another. And someone's going to have to remove themselves. We can't just intermingle. We're already trying to do it. We have our red states. They keep coming here. We left California. We said, you guys can have it. Now they're following us to Texas, and to Tennessee, and to Florida. This event is going to come to a head.
And also, the person doesn't leave because you can't get over, when you're abused, you can't, the way you get over abuse is talking about it and acknowledging it. But the problem is people end up staying in abusive situations and abusive relationships because they can't talk about it with anybody.
Or because they're not being abused.
And if they do end up talking about it with somebody, they end up talking about it to their abuser. Oh, I'm sorry. I love you. Let's make it work. Let's just keep it in-house. Let's deal with it personally. You know, there's different forms of communication. There's that how did it go? What is she saying? There's certain coping mechanisms. There's formal, informal, and personal. Most people use the personal coping, whether they talk to their partner, they get counseling, they fight back, they keep it in. The other ones are like medical help, higher HR professionals, police officers, things like that. You go and tell like people that can help you legally. You get lawyers, stuff like that. Informal is like kind of talking to your family, your friend, going to a church, a group, something like that is informal. Most people don't want people in their business. So most people still end up suffering in silence in their trauma, in their physical and abusive or emotional or financial abusive relationship. So you'll notice that a lot of times people that are being abused, they come in and out and they have like flashbacks sometimes because they never truly get over that. Like at any moment, something can trigger a moment from where they were abused. Like it can,
keep in mind, he's just making all this up out of his imagination, and people are buying this. They're eating it up.
It can be the way that a person smells, a way that a person dresses, a way that a person walks. And if you've been abused, sometimes you can just have like a PTSD, a panic attack, because you get a dopamine hit that I'm not safe because this has happened to me so much. And so as I'm listening to her talk, I'm thinking, well, this is everything Cassie was saying. This is everything Cassie was saying. And I could see not only Cassie fitting into these different molds, multiple people probably around him fit into this box. Okay. And so he went over some of the different things. She talked about some of the different abuse, right? Psychological abuse makes people feel afraid, intimidated, they feel trapped, they feel like they're walking.
These people are going in the wrong direction, by the way. This is not a trial for abuse. This is not a domestic violence trial. This is not a trial about theft. This is a trial about sex trafficking, racketeering. So I guess using the proceeds from her being trafficked, from basically him, Diddy was basically, they're trying to say Diddy is a billionaire because he was selling Cassie to the highest bidder, taking her from state to state and moving her around, putting her on the blade, putting her on Backpage, and that's where the money, and the money from that is what he used to start Bad Boy Records. Because why else would the feds raid your hotel room, and why else would they confiscate $9,500 unless they believe $9,500 came from illegal proceeds? Those were proceeds from illegal activity. So he's not a billionaire. He's just a low-level pimp taking his girl around. And he's not actually charging guys to have sex with her. In the opposite, he's paying them for their time because she likes these guys on the internet and she wants them. This is the strangest sex trafficking case, or it's either not a sex trafficking case. And also, if there's no enterprise of men that he's working with, then there is no racketeering or conspiracy. It doesn't meet the threshold. And everyone keeps going about emotions and no one wants to talk about facts. And that's why there are going to be so many people disappointed in the verdict.
On eggshells, they have symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of PTSD, and that's why people stay. They feel trapped.
There's no way you can convince me somebody with a car, their own bank account, and the means to get to an airplane to fly away from somebody feels trapped with someone. They did not live together. They were in a relationship and she was actually still cheating on him the entire time. So she wasn't just some prisoner chained down, getting beaten. And no, and you can't say that because she was with the man that she loved, she was actually being manipulated into thinking she was in love, but she wasn't. Being convinced to love somebody is not a crime. You can love who you want to love because that comes from you. That's within your own mind and your own heart. You can't blame somebody else. Blame yourself. What is it with Black people in accountability? What, this guy is he's not even straight, and he is sitting here. He's also allergic to accountability. Not one thing in his brain is telling him, well, maybe she's not 3 years old and she can decide for herself what she wants to do. Why are you trying to take away this woman's agency? See, I see this as discrimination against women. He has nothing on it. People talk about Tate. This is way worse. You're saying this woman's not even smart enough to decide what she wants to do with her own for JJ. Abominable.
They feel like they're walking on eggshells. We know what the sexual abuse is. It's the highest traumatizing situation in the most private because it's private harm. Most people won't tell you when they've been sexually abused because there's a shame that comes with that.
I feel like this guy wants to tell us that somebody abused him rectally.
Disgusted. They feel humiliated. They don't want to think about it. And they also can't talk about it. So they internalize that. Right? And then there's the emotional abuse. You've been belittled, demeaned, make you feel.
Emotional abuse is not a crime. Emotions are fleeting. You can be hungry 1 minute, then you eat, you're not hungry no more. Same thing goes for love. Emotions are in the cloud. It's not based in reality. It's based in your imagination. But this is crazy. I wish I could see the jurors. I wish I could be in there and watch these people's faces. But, we can't. We just see sketches and all that. But I hope there's not a bunch of liberal woke. I hope there's at least one person who's an actual man who's actually based on earth in the ground and just will say, no, none of this makes any sense. There's no way this is a conviction for trafficking. I haven't seen anybody get trafficked yet or transported for prostitution. Matter of fact, all these people said they showed up on their own. He just had the location. How the hell am I trafficking somebody or transporting anyone? How is this racketeering? I'm by myself. Who else? What kind of enterprise is that where there's no one there? What are you talking about?
Low. So you just end up staying, because if you can't talk about what's happening in your relationship, you can't get help because you don't want anybody else to know. So you end up having symptoms of depression.
What does help look like when you're in a relationship with somebody who you're cheating on? When you're the one cheating, what kind of help can somebody give you?
But that's because you've been so belittled and beat down in your relationship. So she went down into all of these things. And of course, everyone's thinking, well, yeah, this is everything that Cassie clearly has went through. You know what I'm saying? And then she went into financial abuse, sabotaging the victim's ability to be financially free, taking the laptops, phones, cars, making it where people
go buy your own stuff. That's not abuse. If he bought it, he can take it back. You can go work. Nobody's financially free. Everyone has to earn. That's the whole purpose of living in this country, unless you live off the government. Brother, you're sitting here talking, you're not financially free. You're on here working right now. We just work for people that pay us. It's still a job. You guys want to pretend all work is slavery because you're obsessed with slavery, because you like the buck breaking stories, not because it literally applies or makes sense. It's just ridiculous to hear this shit.
People cannot survive.
But we have to hear it because we need to know how the other side thinks and how they ration out. And it is clear that they don't think. Everything is just pure emotion and instinct, just like some kind of wild cave Neanderthal. They don't think about it. There's no basis on logic. There's no forward thinking. It's just emotions, just crazy.
On their own. And I would like to add one more. It's kind of like, I'm going to buy everything for you, so you have nothing, but you think that I'm doing this for you because
you're a grown-ass woman. Go buy your own stuff. Go buy your own shit. You're grown. You're not a child. You're an adult. Go earn and grow and buy your own yourself.
I want you to have X, Y, and Z, but I'm only doing this for you because the minute you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to take it away from you.
Abso-fucking-lutely. My way or the highway. The same rules were at your parents' house. If you didn't want to come home and respect your curfew, you had to move out. If you couldn't respect your curfew, you couldn't drive your mom's car anymore. It's the same thing when you're in a relationship and you live with somebody. Everyone's going to have rules, or you're going to get broken up with. If I'm threatening to break up with you and take my shit away, then that's a consequence for your actions. That's not abuse. And you're not independent. You're living off of him. Go be independent. I thought you guys were all strong and independent, right? Go be fucking independent.
That's financial abuse to me too. They all interact together, but they don't all have to be done at the same time. At any one time, and they basically, what it does is financial abuse keeps you unstable, which keeps the victim with anxiety, and they just stay. So it's that
you got to think about it, you guys. You don't know what he's saying. What he's saying is that anybody who's on here listening right now that's in a relationship, you're one of two things. You're either the victim or you're the abuser. Which one are you? And if you're single right now, the reason you're single is because your ex abused you. That's what this man is saying. Do you not understand what he means? Everyone's either a victim or an abuser. That's the whole point behind. That's what they're all saying, and that's the thing that has to be refuted. We cannot accept that.
Yeah, of you having no stability. So if you've ever been in a situation in a relationship where you just feel like I'm so unstable financially, or I'm always relying on this person, that's a form of financial abuse, according to this woman. Keeping your partner with this uneasy feeling of stability. I thought that was very interesting because I've had people that I know in my life that have been in relationship and they just could never get stable, but it was like their partner never really wanted them to really truly be stable, because then if they got stable, then they might get strong enough to leave. So I thought that was very, very, very interesting. So when the victim is in a honeymoon phase, they get showered with gifts. So you end up feeling like, I love this. This is a good thing. We have a good thing. I love this thing about you, but you beat me. But that creates a trauma bond. They want the good partner that they fell in love with. So a lot of people end up being in trauma bonding situations because it's like and so basically that's a toxic relationship. You fight, but then they love bomb you. So then you guys have this trauma bond because you like, I want that old good thing back, but then it's only back for a little bit, then they abuse you again. It's really dark and sad. Often the victim turns to its abuser for support, which keeps them in the loop. Effects of trauma bonds is the person doesn't want to actually leave. Love bombing she talked about love bombing and how, you shower people with gifts to establish trust and bring them back into the relationship web. So you bomb them with a bunch of gifts, give them gifts, and then boom, they're back. They don't want you to leave. Even if you try to leave, they make it very hard for you to leave. Victims often return because the abuse continues. So they just say, I might as well stay. They just end up staying because it don't end, and they just deal with it. Right? So they went into all of that stuff. And they went into like defense, like how do you defend yourself? Like there's passive self-defense where victims, this kind of fall into Cassie. Victims try to protect the ways victims try to protect themselves from being abused. They passive self-defense is like not fighting back, curling up into a ball, throwing a pillow, trying to stay out the way. Active self-defense is fighting back. That usually,
mind you, they're talking about when this man and this woman used to get really, really high and drunk and hit on each other over a decade ago. The last time there was a physical altercation between Cassie and Diddy was actually caught on tape. And that was in the year 2015, I believe, at the Intercontinental Hotel. That's 10 years ago. What does that, the statute of limitation on domestic violence and assault is 6 or 7 years. I think it's 7 years is the longest. This is way outside the statute of limitation. Why does any of that matter? When are you going to address racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation of prostitutes? When are you gonna bring that up?
Makes the abuse worse, so people don't try to do that as much. And the avoid strategy is not dealing with it, not trying to talk about it, and just ignoring it, which that doesn't work too. They got minimalization, minimizing it, and making it like it didn't happen. Like, what research did you do for you to diagnose that? If you are a clinical psychologist or a forensic psychologist, you have to assess me. Anybody that's went to therapy has been assessed. You have to have an assessment. So that's kind of what they did. Oh, I didn't even know that comment was up there. That was an accident. So I don't think she lied.
Hey, Mac Pro, good to see you.
I don't think the woman lied at all, outside of acting like she didn't know about the case. but she's a female domestic violence activist. So she's very heavy in the woman is right, And in this case, she's right. But the issue is, they also asked her, the issue is though, wait, hold on. And then the prosecution asked her, they said, well, while they did all that, is it true that one of the defense put you on payroll?
One of the comments says, nah, Armand, you're not seeing it. She can state facts of abuse victims, and then it's up to the jury to decide if what she says applies to the policies of this case. Absolutely.
They didn't want to work with her. Then they said your psychology or forensic studies haven't been published in years. There's no public date. There's nothing about your clinical or psychological publishings. But yet, we have this training on how to be a professional witness. What else did she say that was it was a gag? Hold on. Oh yeah, they say you were getting paid by the Department of Justice, the same Department of Justice that was paying the prosecutors. They say you were advocating to help the prosecution. So it was getting spicy. But I'm saying this to say, even if that's the case, I don't know if that is a complete good look. I don't know if it's a winner or not, because you got to also think the majority of the jury is men. So if it looks like now a 7-pack of white women ganging up on a man, I don't know. We'll see. But people get funny when money gets involved. So the defense did a great job of trying to make it seem like, well, girl, this woman is not really, she was a psychologist. She was a forensic psychologist. She was a, clinical psychologist, but she has now evolved into a witness, a career witness that talks about clinical psychology, which is just a bunch of generalized information that she takes from case to case. And now she does do trainings on that. That's basically what they were saying. So she just does a bunch of generalizations because this is her Monday through Friday. She's about to take this same testimony to the next courtroom over tomorrow. That's pretty much what they said.
An entire industry teaching people how to pretend to be victims in order to extort money and resources from people who have greater means than themselves. Nothing about justice, nothing about being accurate, nothing about what's right. Everything about what it's basically extortion, legalized extortion. And we should all be sick just knowing that there's professions where this is what they do.
This is why I said it's going to be interesting, because the evidence is the evidence. It's there. The evidence is there. But Diddy's team still finds a way to have you thinking, well, shit. Even if you I know this is wrong. I know they just.
What's the evidence? Be more specific.
Client, but sometimes they do it so good, you be thinking, well, shit, I guess she's right. But in your heart, it's like but see, even when I get like that, but I'm like, I still seen the gash. I still seen the bruises.
You don't know who the bruises
But
came from.
everybody don't think like that.
You don't know how she got the bruises. You don't know where they came from. There's no proof it was from Diddy.
That's all I'm saying. You got a jury of 12 people. Everybody have to think the same thing. So there might be some people like, he's guilty. But then there's going to be some people like, yeah, this was just domestic violence. I don't see coercion here. Cassie's still in love with him. She will take him back. She wanted to do it because she initiated some of the freak offs. Everybody's not going to see, everybody may not see it from she was traumatized.
Being traumatized into sex is crazy. As if you're not going to enjoy it also just because you're a woman. So let's make it make sense. Do women not have sexual organs? Do they not feel anything? Is all sex for women laborsome? Women aren't attracted to men. Women don't get turned on or aroused and get into the mood. That's a figment of my imagination. I'm just making up. So all of sex is essentially abuse, and no women want sex is what this man who pretends to be a woman is stating.
So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Cassie definitely was coerced. I definitely feel like the prostitution thing is clear. I think that they're still trying to do the workaround.
Clear where? When was Cassie a prostitute? Like this is ridiculous.
Rico is still, the enterprise is still not like the prostitution is clear. And the coercion is clearer to me. Like, I know what I know with the coercion. It's clear that he coerced her and he didn't care about her like that. But they still find ways to discredit her and make it about it wasn't coercion because she was in on it too, because they were both and they did a good job by that, because what they do is they use Cassie's without saying it, but they use her sexual past against her. Like, well, she was already, she wasn't that innocent. She was a freak and a hoe. She did.
Yeah, so are you saying all the other men she used to sleep with prostituted her too? What did Diddy do different than them? Because she was smashing them and cheating on them the way she did Diddy. How was Diddy Diddy was just the one that paid the most money for her lifestyle. Everybody else got to get it for free.
See, because how do you go from, this is what they're saying. How do you go from just being some innocent, girl from nothing, but you able to get in spaces with, Diddy, then you get Diddy, then you cheating with Kid Cudi, then you cheating after that, you go back to Diddy, then you go with your husband, but then, Diddy somehow you, but then you go back to Diddy and cheat on your husband. Then you was talking to Michael B. Jordan, so they were trying to paint the picture like they're all freaky. And Diddy's a drug addict. But what we're wanting to see is like, well, she was coerced into being a drug addict. She was coerced in being so freaky. But they trying to paint the picture, and some days they do a good job, sometimes they don't. But it's up to the jury to decide, was Cassie in on that too? Did she get immunity too? So
what they're not going to be able to explain is Cassie's promiscuity. They're not going to be able to explain that, because technically, if sex is what makes her a victim, then that means Michael B. Jordan brutalized her. So did Kid Cudi. So did Drake. And so did all of these men that she paid to have sex with her. If the threshold of abuse is men having sex with her, because obviously sex is horrible for women, they don't enjoy it, then that means that everybody's either involved, because Diddy didn't do anything any different. Actually, Diddy was the only one. Diddy had the least amount of sex with her than anybody else, if you listen to the testimony.
It can use the beating and the kicking under the coercion and intimidation.
And can somebody tell me, when was Cassie being prostituted? Because we're going throughout the trial. Maybe I missed the part where somebody was paying money to have sex with Cassie. So please, if you know that, leave it in the comments so to clear this up.
And so that's the part for me where I still feel like he's guilty. So somebody said it's not Cassie versus Diddy. No, it's not Cassie versus Diddy. However, the federal government is using Cassie's storyline for the basis of this investigation in this trial. Cassie is the catalyst and the foundation for this trial. So they have to prove that Cassie was coerced and trafficked through an enterprise led by Sean Combs in order to take him down. Does that make sense?
And they will absolutely not be able to do that because that never happened. That's delusions of grandeur and an overactive imagination.
I don't know, y'all. It'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think the receipts are there. I just think the prosecution needs to step it up because there's sometimes, just like yesterday, well, they had 3 witnesses for me that failed miserably. Don did not do a good job on that stand. And I don't even think the what's his name? The Punisher, he didn't fail, but he didn't close the door on Diddy like I think they thought he would. Because he said he never saw any drugs. Diddy was never mean. He never saw any violence. And Cassie was a willing participant, and she looked like she enjoyed it. Remember, Cassie's whole thing was she never enjoyed the freak-offs. She hated it. But the last statement that man said is he felt like she enjoyed it because after he came up for air, she had scooted on him like, I want some. So that right there says she enjoyed the freak off. At least that's what he said. But according to Cassie, she hated every freak off.
If you believe that, I got a bridge.
So honestly, it's just up to how the jury perceives it. And all I'm saying is the defense sometimes makes good arguments to where you can be left confused. Like, well, no one. I know that, by the way, they just confuse me. They're not shitty lawyers. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying.
You don't got to be the best lawyer to point out inconsistencies and to raise doubt in a sex trafficking case where there's no actual body being sex trafficked. You don't have to be a master lawyer or super savvy. Like literally, I mean, I'm not even the best lawyer, but I could have been a great defense and pointed this out. I mean, maybe I should eventually go back to law school. I was going to go, but I decided to do other things, but maybe I should. Fuck.
So somebody said, let's see. Everything we heard from the last assistant, this one is saying too. So we're gonna get more into his testimony tomorrow. It's not really no new information. He basically saying he did the same thing that the other guy did. So I can't wait to see how this goes. I can't wait to hear how the Kid Cudi testimony goes because I feel like they're gonna try to grill him on the stand. This could be a make or break moment too. So hopefully Kid Cudi gets up there and does not fumble. No, Diddy wasn't crying in the courtroom today.
They want Diddy to be guilty so bad. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about what's right. They don't care. They just want the guy who's not on their side to go down. This is insane.
So we'll see. I'll let you guys know. And we'll be back at it tomorrow, though. So I love you all. Make sure y'all here. Armand, please keep saying this case isn't about Cassie, all while arguing about Cassie. Girl, y'all missing the point, y'all.
And that is an excellent response. You keep talking about Cassie, but you're saying this is this case. He doesn't understand this case isn't about Cassie. In his mind, it says, well, Cassie is their only witness. There's nobody else that's gonna come out. People keep telling me, Rico, there's a bunch of children and midgets and abused women that are gonna come out and say he just be raping and raping. I said, I know there's no one's coming out to say Diddy's a serial rapist, bro. Nobody's gonna come out and say that because it's not true. I thought it was true when this all began. I don't believe it's true now. I don't. Evidence isn't there. The testimony is. And everyone's saying the same thing about him. And the last thing they're saying is that he's a serial abuser. But I just had to put this on because listening to the other side of these unpragmatic people who are just making up stuff in their imagination and projecting. Imagine this across the board. When you see these people acting crazy on Twitter every day, they live in a separate universe. They don't live in reality. And that's why there's such a disconnect and why we don't understand them. But you got to listen to them to see what's going on. And if I had to suffer through this, so did you.
So we'll see. And we'll talk tomorrow, you all. I love you all. Good night.
Yeah, this is we're gonna listen to Myron a little bit too, actually.
Insane enough to stand trial. What they'll do is they'll pretend to be insane so they can be found, innocent as they'll be found insane as a self-defense, and they don't go to prison for life. So that's an example where people might, practice some malingering so they can avoid consequences of their crimes. So then they brought up that she did a webinar in 2015, and this webinar in 2015 was of much contest. They actually had a couple of sidebars on it, and guys, the sidebar is basically where all the attorneys meet on the side with the judge to discuss it. The defense wanted to bring in her entire webinar in as evidence. The judge didn't want to do it. The prosecution obviously objected to this, and the judge said, well, look, we won't bring the whole thing in, but you can ask her questions about it. And, if needed, then you can show parts of it as needed to the jury. So she had this webinar that she did in 2015 with another woman where they taught people how to testify in court. Okay. So the angle they started to show here is like, yo, you're just a professional testifier for the government. Yeah. Right. And they asked her, where does a majority of your come? They said, well, a majority of your income comes from testifying as an expert witness, doesn't it? And she said, no, that's not true. And they're like, well, really? What percentage comes from it then? She was like 60%. And they're like, well, that would mean it's the majority. 60 is higher than 50. And she was like, okay, blah, blah. So that was kind of funny when they caught her there. And remember, guys, how I told you guys that she only works about 2.5 days a week? Bam. So she only sees patients for 2.5 days a week. But the other days of the week, what is she doing? She's testifying as a legal expert. And she gets paid quite a bit of money, bro. Quite a bit. What do you think she makes off testifying, bro?
Of testifying?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think when you did it, probably about...
There's so on camera.
Maybe, man.
Just off testifying. Not seeing patients.
It's got to be at least $200,000 a year.
You think $200,000 a year?
Yeah, at minimum.
At minimum.
At minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all she's doing is testifying. I mean, she's charging $6,000 a day. And she said her rate is commensurate with the current going rates at the time. So if you adjust for the fluctuation in rates over the past couple of years where they were getting...
And she said she hasn't changed her rate in a few years.
In a few years, that's what I was going to say. So yeah, that's at least $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Just off testifying.
Just off testifying, right?
Or even offering help, which you'll get into, offering help to the prosecution or the defense, and then testifying lightly. Even.
Oh, okay. So thank you for bringing that up. So the next thing they beat her up on, guys, and I'll tell you guys, this was a really good cross-examination. The prosecution had to call for sidebar, 3 times? I think they called for sidebar 3 times. Or
it was 3 times. I had
so once the defense started cross-examining her, they called for sidebar 3 times, chat. So basically they said, hey, they cornered her on 60% of her income comes from testifying as a witness. And then they said back in the 20th century, she wrote books and articles. They made fun of her again on that. She hasn't written an article in 25 years. So she doesn't do scholarly articles anymore, and she does mostly testifying. Can you talk about a bit about that on the scholarly articles and like why that's important in the psychology world or psychiatry world?
Yeah. So you need scholarly articles to not only contribute to the world of psychology or psychiatry, but in this case, let's just focus on psychology. But you have to do articles in order to show your competency level, so to speak. And some people do continuing education courses and things like that, but to show competency and for certain certain accomplishments, achievements, and for certain like board certification, things like that. So she was contributing scholarly articles. Here's the thing though. Some people submit articles just because they have to submit them. Some people submit articles because they're required. Some people submit.
And she did a lot when she was doing her PhD.
She did it a lot for her PhD. Some people do it to change the world though.
Yeah.
You know, so they tried to frame it as she was a world changer, but she was really just submitting these because she had to do it pre dissertation and post dissertation.
Yeah, to get her doctorate. Let's see here. And then they retained she's been retained hundreds of times as a subject matter expert. So the defense was asking her how many times have you been retained as an SME. She said hundreds of times. And then this was like a death shot. They said, "You've never come in to testify on the behalf of men." And then she responded, "I don't speak on offenders."
Bro, that shit had me weak.
Bro, did they call a sidebar after that one?
No, it got quiet. Remember?
Oh, yes.
Got
It got quiet. Nobody said anything for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought it was a damn near sidebar.
Our side,
yeah,
and in the courtroom, on the defense, everyone quiet.
Yep.
Security guards quiet.
I'm gonna say that again for y'all. So this lawyer that cross-examined her did a really good job. He goes, "In all the times that because she said, I've been retained hundreds of times and I've testified hundreds of times." And he said, "Is it not true in all the times that you came and testified that you've never come to testify on the behalf of a man or a male defendant?" And she said, "I don't speak on offenders." Bro, mic drop moment.
Yeah.
Because when she was giving her testimony, chat, also something else. Can you talk about that real quick, Chad, about how she always referred everything from the dynamic to refer to all the victims as she when she was speaking, even when she was testifying, it's like she subconsciously kept saying she as the victim.
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes. I was speaking to Myron about it as we were sitting down before we even got to this point. She only referred to the victims as she, or the people that could possibly be affected by abuse as she. It'd be like, and she would be scared, and she would have to get into fetal position, and she would guard herself some punches, and she would feel compelled to fight back. But there was this one time where she really messed up doing that. And what she did was she said, like, one of the things that a woman in distress would have to do would be to, well, you know, she would have to stop from her laptop being taken away, which
and then they immediately objected to that.
Right.
Because it came with the financial, the tangible, the economic abuse, because she talked about economic and financial abuse. And she said the reason why people don't leave, or women don't leave, is because when they get economically or financially abused, they get their laptops taken away or whatever. And when she said that, the defense objected, obviously, because in this case, they made the allegation that Diddy took her laptops away and shit like that.
Yeah,
right? Or he took her things away. But it's interesting because the iPad and the laptops and everything else like that, who did it come from? It came from Cassie.
Right.
All the freak out videos came from Cassie. So, but anyway, the defense objected to that. So then they went over, then they said that you went over questions and answers with the government 6 times. So for her trial prep, guys, the government met with her 6 times. And then some of the meetings were after the trial started. Okay. So they had her come in and be prepped after the trial started, and they met with her 6 times. Now, here is the key point, chat. She was supposed to not know the facts of the case. So the defense was like, if you're only coming in here to testify as a subject matter expert, right, and you're not going to be privy to the case or to the victims or the circumstances, you're coming in as a blind witness, why the fuck did the government meet with you 6 times? Which is a good question. That is a good question. I mean, what do you think, chat? Like, why the fuck would you come in 6 times?
So from what I thought, I'm not even gonna lie.
Let's take her side here. Let's play devil's advocate.
Let's do that.
Why the fuck would she come 6 times to meet with the government on this? Oh, another thing before you answer this.
Yeah.
The other thing, she some of the meetings were after the trial started, 6 to 8 meetings with the lawyers. He asked that, and then they said, "Did you help them write them their help you? Did you help them write their briefs?" That's when the objection. We need a sidebar.
Yeah.
The AUSA said that because that kind of put them in a bad spot. Because first he says, "Okay, you're coming in as a blind witness. You don't know any of the facts and circumstances on the case. You're just coming here in to testify on domestic violence. Cool. And you're being paid to do so. Cool. Why did you meet with the government 6 to 8 times? Right? If you're coming in only to testify as a subject matter expert, that doesn't make sense." Then they said, "Did you help them write their briefs?" And then the AUSAs were like, "Whoa, what the fuck is going on here?" And then they said the government made drafts of the subject matter of her testimony. But again, the meeting the 6 to 8 times, and then they made the accusation, or they insinuated with their line of questioning, that the this woman, the Dr. Hughes, helped the AUSAs with writing the briefs. And the other thing also that they got her on was because she said that she comes in and she educates the AUSAs on the subject matter.
Yep.
So that's why they said, "Well, did you help them write their briefs since you are coming in to educate them on the subject matter?" So she almost put herself in a corner by doing this. And can you explain to them real quick what a brief is and the other stuff that you want to say from before? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to say was
6 to 8 times.
It's really funny because he said, so you needed to come 6 to 8 times to educate them. But that shit was funny. The attorney was kind of roasting her, but yeah, so she was basically, what we found out was that she was helping prep their attack, their strategy.
Yeah.
And she was giving them psychological tricks, profiles. This is what they're insinuating, at least,
And
terms, so that when they have someone on the stand, a witness on the stand, they can use certain terminology to eschew your view and to make you kind of fall in line and fall in empathy, or the jurors fall in line and fall in empathy with the case, as far as, the court of public opinion. But this isn't like televised case. The point is that she was doing this so that she could sway the opinions of the jurors, and they're really going for tugging the heartstrings, invoking a sense of shock, a sense of fear, and like extreme empathetic response. And so but she was doing this ahead of time and after the trial started, which means the defense announced what they were trying to do, what they were trying to establish, and she had time thereafter to then craft even more psychological tricks and more psychological railways, and help the government figure out a way to make these witnesses, to make Diddy look worse, and to make these witnesses answer their line of questioning in a way that satisfied their needs.
And let me tell you guys why this is especially pernicious. So I told you guys this before, but a lot of you guys might be newer viewers. On the first day, there was opening statements, guys. Opening statements is when each side presents their case, right? They give you a quick summary of what their evidence is going to be, what their intention is. When the government came out, they said, did he use his power, influence, coercion, violence, etc., to run an empire and, be able to do it with little impunity? And he was he was able to do it basically unchecked. And he had his people working for him, helping him do this, right? And he's a monster. Cool. Then the defense came in and said, look, the government is taking a domestic violence case and trying to make it a sex trafficking case. We're not condoning domestic violence, but what we are saying is that this is domestic violence. This is not a Rico sex trafficking case that the government's trying to spin up. This is a relationship between two toxic individuals in a toxic relationship that were beating on each other and abusing each other. That's what the defense said. So I find it interesting that after both parties gave their opening statements, then the government has this witness, and they met with them after opening statements, and they knew what the defense was going to do, that now the witness is coming in with the domestic violence angle. That's why the defense was going after her. Like, hold on one second. So you bring this witness in, who's a domestic violence expert, and she's conveniently talking about the things that the government's star witness is being attacked on. What's everyone attacking Cassie on? Hey, why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she just leave? Like, she was with Diddy for 10 years. She had the ability and the resources to leave. Why didn't she leave? And then, and that's a valid question. A lot of people are asking that. So then they bring the psychiatrist in or psychologist, and what does she say? Oh, well, there's all these reasons why people might not leave. So the defense caught her in that. They said, you met with the government 6 to 8 times. You gave them certain terms. Did you help them write their briefs too? So what they're able to do was insinuate that this woman, this expert, had a bit more of a invasive role in this trial as a subject matter expert. That's what they were able to insinuate. And I think they did a good job of it because the government had to object multiple times and call sidebars. They called sidebars 3 times during cross on this, guys. So they had them on the ropes for sure.
Yeah, that was actually, to your point, that was really interesting because the way they called the sidebars was dramatic too. They were objection. Like,
yes.
Sidebar. We need a sidebar.
When you have the tough question.
We need
when you made a good point.
Yeah. Whenever he made a good point, they immediately sidebarred. It was heavy. And
they also said they made a point. Look, you're not getting paid by the National Institute of Science, because she said, I'm here as a scientist. I'm here to, get. I'm here to testify as an expert and
provide scientific facts.
And I'm here off of science, right?
Yeah.
My experience comes from science. And they said, well, who are you being paid by? You're being paid by the Department of Justice. You're not being paid by the Institute of Science.
Right.
The prosecutors who work for the Department of Justice are the ones that are paying you. And I think they did a really good job of kind of hurting your credibility a bit.
And remember Johnny Depp, Amber Heard.
Yeah.
She tried the same thing. Johnny, and I believe they threw her testimony out, but
didn't the psychiatrist actually help Johnny?
No, the psychologist was for Amber Heard. Same exact song and dance.
Okay.
Same exact. Oh yeah, abuse.
But didn't Johnny get his own psychologist too?
He did, to refute.
Okay.
And that's what the defense said today. That's what they said they were in preparation. She used on the stand today, the psychiatrist.
Yeah. She
used on the stand today that she was helping the government prepare, because remember, she got tripped up in that line of questioning. She said they were going to refute with another psychologist. So I was helping to prepare for what he was going to rebut with.
Okay.
So she tried to use that, but it was too late in the game by the time that happened.
Yeah, the defense should have got a psychologist, because here's the thing, bro. It's so subjective.
It is.
It's subjective. And yeah. So then the government went ahead and redirected, right? So after they had the defense did a fantastic job of hurting her making money, her meeting with the government 6 to 8 times, even though she's supposed to be someone who's a blind witness. The fact that they use certain terminology in their briefs that is in the psychiatry world. And then they met after the trial began, and they met after opening statements were made where the defense had stated their position that this is a domestic violence case. Then all of a sudden she's talking about domestic violence. So I think they did a really good job of kind of illustrating this story where we have this psychiatrist in here that might be suggestive, that might be biased, okay, that might not like men, okay. Then the government redirected and they said, okay, everything that you submitted was relevant to your testimony, not facts of the case. The meetings were about educating the government. She can only testify in what's related. The presentation 10 years ago, she hasn't done it since. Now presentations are for psychologists and doing forensic analyzation in trauma cases and sexual assault. That's what she does now. That's all of her presentations. She goes to all the psychology conferences in the United States. Board certified forensic psychology is hard to get 40 in the United States. 40. There's only 40 of them in New York City. Did we already define board certified?
Yeah, we already defined board certified.
But on the good stream or on the fucked up stream?
On the good stream.
Okay.
But what I should mention is that we did speak about when I showed you my credentials and I was showing you how I also attended the meeting.
Yes.
I also have 30 CMEs or whatever, like the same she was. I have a bunch of CMEs.
Yeah.
So do I.
Can you tell them what a CME is? Yeah.
So it's continuing education credit, but the APA does sign off on it, and so it's legitimate. It's basically by an accredited board mixed with the APA, saying that you took this course or you studied this or you completed or contributed enough hours to satisfy a need for whatever you're going for as far as it deals with psychology or psychiatry. And then there's the annual meeting, which is a meeting that everyone attends. And that not everyone, but a lot of people go to the annual meeting, and the who's who of the mental health crowd is at these annual meetings. Although I will say it's infiltrated lately by only women, but that's something that he'll I'll get into it in a little bit.
Hell, let's get into it now. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, last thing before we get into it. So they asked her, have you been retained by any of the attorneys here? And she said, yes. So the government thought that they had her, that they had it, right? The government says, hey, have you ever been retained by any of the attorneys here? She says, yes, one of the defense attorneys. So then the defense comes back on the stand and they say, who retained you? And she said, Brian Steele, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a case where a woman shot her husband 5 times in the head and Steele didn't consider her an expert and he didn't want to use her. So she wasn't actually retained. And I think it's probably because she has this very pro-female thing and she never did anything for the benefit of the guy.
And it's interesting because she was the defendant was a female.
Yes,
and
in that case.
Still didn't want.
Yeah, they don't want
to retain her.
Yeah, he didn't want to retain her. So let's see here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over. I think this is very, very important. So what this testimony basically proved, right? And I was listening to it. Basically, abuse is a very nebulous, opaque term that can be attributed to anything, right? If you're in a relationship with a girl and she misbehaves or she does something you don't like and you withdraw attention or you withdraw money or you withdraw whatever, she can now consider that abuse. And they clinically look at it like that. That's where we are at, okay?
And that's my problem. There we go. Now we're making progress. If you withdraw things that you're doing for the woman you're with because she's cheating on you or she's lying or you guys aren't getting along, and you're like, you know what? I was letting you use my car. I was paying your bills. I'm not doing that anymore now because, we're not getting along or you're lying, you're cheating on me. And they're trying to switch that now into being considered abuse, financial abuse. Hell no, we cannot go for that at all. Not at all.
Now they can't get away from their abuser. The honeymoon phase, love bombing, whatever. And here's to give you guys a double standard here. Let's say I had a girl, right? And my girl would tell me all the time that I'm a loser, right? And she would be abusing me. If I went and said, yo, my girl's abusing me, blah, blah, blah. Let's be honest here. People will laugh at me. What the fuck? Get the fuck out of here, bro. Just leave. You can leave. No one's holding a gun to your head. Leave. Right? But when it comes to women, not only do they have all the authority and all the privilege by being a woman, because they're able to double dip and act like a man when they want, but at the same time be able to get the same privilege as a female. Now, they don't have to take responsibility for making poor mating decisions and getting with losers. They could go ahead and attribute to abuse instead of just finding another partner or finding whatever. And this is another example of what I mean when I say we have this society now where it's literally a gynocentric society, guys. Like, women don't take accountability for their actions. And now we are legislating them not being able to take accountability for their actions. And they can sit there and say, I'm being abused. Well, how about you just leave, right? This is why arranged marriages have been a thing for so goddamn long. Because when you leave women to their own devices, they pick terrible men. And then they pick these terrible men. They don't take accountability for it. And then they come back later on and say, oh, I was being abused. No, you should have left. Whose fault is it to stay in a bad relationship? Is it your fault or the abuser's fault? I think it's your fault. If I go on a date with a girl and she doesn't smash me or she uses me or whatever, and I say, this is financial abuse, everyone's going to laugh at me. They're going to literally act like, oh, you took her on 10 dates and you didn't smash and you spent $10,000? You're a fucking idiot. Haha, retard. No sympathy. But if a woman's in a relationship with a guy and he treats her poorly, oh my God, you're such a victim. Ridiculous, man. So this is an example of what I mean when I say feminism, guys, has now seeped into psychology and psychiatry. And it scares me because we're going to get into a feels before the reals world very soon if we're not already in it. Yeah, take it away, man. I know you could talk about this a lot more. Can you define for them real quick the difference between psychiatry versus psychology, and then how you from your you being going to these board meetings and seeing everything that you've seen, how feminism has seeped into this world?
Yeah, I mean, so pretty much what you're dealing with. So psychology does not require any residency. or it doesn't require you to become a doctor-induced psychiatric residency. Psychiatric residency is required for you to become a psychiatrist. And generally speaking, psychiatrists give out, they're associated more. Those are the people you see that, oh, I went to the shrink and I got medication. That's a psychiatrist. That's what that's associated with. Psychologist, I hate to say it like this, is more of a, unless they are producing papers and producing changes that result in a shift in the way that things are perceived, or they're participating in adjusting the DSM as it pertains to scientific phenomena and the changes in scientific phenomena. They're basically glorified therapists. I hate to say it like that.
Psychologists are glorified therapists,
Yes,
basically.
psychologists.
And guys, like the video, we're giving you a lot of sauce. I got someone here that's, that's in this world just for you guys. This is like the perfect episode. Keep going, bro. Keep going.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's the difference. What's happened is we now have people who are able to become psychologists who have zero brain power, zero knowledge, zero actual interest. See, what happens is this. We used to have people who cared about science in the brain, namely men. I hate saying like that, but that's what it was. So they wanted to drive life-changing things. They wanted to drive changes, and they wanted to understand the brain. Now, I'm not taking it all the way back to Sigmund Freud. He was a psychopath, but after that, there were a good amount of people who had a good amount of experiments and contributions that tried to influence how psychology could affect the world. Now, it is a flawed science. I will say that it's a flawed science because, like, as my boy Evan frequently brings up, that it can't be replicated, really. So it's hard to replicate psychological science, and things change way too much. There's fluctuation, like depression. Depression one day is real, then depression the next day is not real. The depression, well, these pills are a placebo, but then these pills work. But now we have new studies and new verifiable studies that are coming out in an alarming rate saying that selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, basically antidepressants, don't really work because they don't really do anything for your serotonin levels. It's absolute madness what this field has turned into. Now it is turned
real
into
quick
that.
before you tell them about what the madness of this field, please give them your educational background and what it is, because some of these people I can see in the chat, they're like wondering, like, who's this guy? What's his background? And I think that some of them missed it from the before. Just real quick, Chad, give them your educational background.
Oh yeah,
I know you don't like to brag about it, but just real quick.
Yeah, so I went to Harvard. I'll say that's great. I went there, but my background is in psychology, and I studying psychology, things like that. And I will say I did IT for most of my life, and then I got interested in psychology afterwards. But and I'm on the American Psychiatric Association, District 32, Massachusetts branch, the Massachusetts district of the APA. And I'm part of various caucuses, multiple caucuses, and I actually do.
And what's a caucus?
A caucus is, it's almost like the division that she was talking about in the American Psychological Association. Like how they have divisions, the APA Division 1, 2, and 3, and the American Psychiatric Association. There are caucuses that you can join that are similar to those.
Yeah, you bitch ass niggas in the chat. Yeah, he's a Harvard grad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think he's just here just yapping? Like, there's a reason he's here, man. Sorry, bro. Keep going. Keep going.
Even
Just
if it wasn't Harvard, I'm smarter than most of you niggas anyway. So the whole thing is so yeah, that's my background. But yeah.
Oh, you were talking about the caucuses. You're a member of the APA.
Yeah.
So you go to these meetings.
I do go to.
You go to these meetings.
Yeah.
What is the breakdown there?
So basically, when you go to
men and women,
when you go, well, nowadays the breakdown is kind of crazy. You see a lot more women than you do men.
Yeah.
The APA meetings are they're scheduled in such a way that there's a topic, and every year you go, it's based around that topic.
Yep.
So like I forgot what it was last year, but let's just say it's the ethno-psychopharmacological influences on impoverished communities.
Yeah,
like
some bullshit like that.
They'll use some strong name like that. Basically, they go there and they virtue signal a lot, and they go, hey, well, the black people need help, and the girls need help because they're getting beat a lot, and all these misogynists. There's Myron. There's this guy Myron. You heard of Myron? Like, yeah. Do shit like that, and then everyone sniffs each
or they'll take the victim narrative. Just so y'all know, he's based on the race thing, by the way. This is not a DEI guy. He's far from it. He's racist just like me. Yeah, I don't know if I should be saying that out loud.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty racist.
Yeah,
everyone knows.
We make fun of niggas, bro.
Yeah, basically all the time. So basically, that's what's going on. And then after the ass sniffing and everything happens, you then get to actually meet people. Some people who actually want to do the work and forward the science. Some people who just want to hear themselves talk. Some people who are just trying to get up, politically and within the reins of the APA. But yeah, so it's essentially it's really heavily influenced by women now. You have women who think that they're interested in the field, but they're not really interested in the field. What they're interested in is it's like, oh my god, it's so cool. I get to learn my fucking emotions, like shit like that. And then they go there, they realize, oh shit, I don't really get to learn about my emotions. And then they end up being a therapist or they end up being a psychologist because it's too hard to be a psychiatrist because you have to do extra work. And by the time they graduate, they can become a psychologist. You can become a forensic psychologist with minimal work, like easy bachelor's, and then you don't have to even have your bachelor's in anything medical related. You can just take your master's in forensic psychology, and then that's it. Then you can become a
Versus being a psychiatrist, you're actually a doctor.
Yeah,
you're a medical doctor.
You have to go through.
You're an MD, right?
Med school, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah, you're an MD when you're a psychiatrist.
So it's pretty wicked how but the field has become infiltrated because it's like 13th grade, kind of like nursing school. Like, I hate to say it, sorry nurses, but being a nurse is like 13th grade for most women.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with psychology. It's now become 13th grade, and it's become heavily infiltrated by people who don't give a shit about it and who aren't intellectually sound enough to actually make any impact on the field.
Now, how is this impacted? Because when she came in there, I just heard a bunch of feminist propaganda bullshit here, right? Where, you know, it's abuse this, abuse that. And, you know, it's interesting because these terms of abuse that she was utilizing in this trial, a man would never be able to use that shit, ever. We would just get laughed at. Like, what do you mean you can't leave? You're being economically abused? Get the fuck out of here. So how have you seen like the trajectory of the psychology world, even the psychiatry world, like become more and more?
I guess they're having some technical difficulties here with Myron. They're at a different studio right now, but you know, this is important. So I'm glad we're tuning in and watching it. So just give them a second. I'm sure they're gonna fix the issues.
Feminist centric and you know, kind of, you know, appeal more to female emotion versus facts.
Well, now it's appealing to female emotion because everything has to be about how the woman is feeling and how they can get empathy across. So, something going on over there?
What are?
Hold on.
We're getting a Mossad attack, bro. Bro, as soon as we start fucking cooking, what do? They we get on this topic and the nigga, bro. It's back now? All right. I'm checking YouTube right now, see if it's back. I'll cut this part out as well when I edit. That's about 116. Some nigga said this guy's not a Harvard grad. Okay, nigga.
Yeah, it'd be like that. People get upset all the time. There's nothing you can do about it.
Let's see here. We might be back. Let me see here. Chat, give me O/ if you guys can, if we're back. Give me O/ if we're back, guys. Okay, so this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, I see. It should be you on the screen.
Yeah. It's I said the Mossad attack. They're there.
It says you're back now. Yeah, people saying you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, that attack was wild.
All right. God damn, man. As soon as we start cooking about this shit, bro. All right. So 34 minutes and 116. That's where I'll have to like clean it up. All right. Go ahead, bro.
All right, so yeah.
You were on you're talking about it being infiltrated, 13th grade. Shit.
Yeah, I was talking about it being infiltrated. Basically, I was saying like that women don't have
Oh yeah, feels versus feelings. You're
yeah,
talking about feelings.
Yeah. So the reason the field is kind of is scarred and marred and torn to shit right now is because they're taking the most malleable of people and introducing them to the psychological fields.
Okay.
And because they're doing that, they're able to sway the opinion of other people, namely women, because women are easily persuaded, you know, with opinions and stuff like that. So like, let me clean this up. So they're taking women who come out from high school saying, hey, you should be a psychologist. It's a great job, whatever. Those women are extremely malleable when they come out because they want a job that's going to pay a lot and what they think is going to pay a lot, but they're going to be affecting lives, but they're also going to get smarter. And they think because they're a psychologist or a therapist that they're going to understand men and be able to counter what men say, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And then these women get into the field, but they don't actually care.
Gotcha.
Not only do they not actually care, they find out that the field it's kind of difficult, you know, depending on which road you want to take.
Yeah. A lot of girls have an undergrad psychology degree, but very few of them actually go through and get the fucking full on.
There's the undergrad psychology degrees. Like I said, that's why I call it 13th grade. Like, I'm not trying to shit on them like that or anything, but you know, it's you don't really need to do much to get it, and you don't have to be smart to get it.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Facts. You know what I mean?
So,
bimbos, I know they got psychology degrees.
Yeah, and they don't know the first thing about it.
Yep.
They don't know the first thing about the brain. They don't know the first thing about human interaction.
Yep.
So, it being oversaturated with women now, it was always heavily saturated by women. Let's just get that straight. It's always been more of a female field, but there was a lot of how do you say? There was a lot of heavy male influence involved to keep it within bounds.
Okay.
But now the bounds are gone.
So let me ask you this. Would you say that the explosion in depression medication, Xanax medications, SSRIs, all this stuff, all this crap that's like exploded when it comes to prescriptions and usage over the past several decades, would you attribute that to the explosion of females in the field misdiagnosing people and or, you know, or ADHD? I remember growing up as a kid, we would just tell niggas they're stupid or they're retarded.
Yeah.
Like, bro, well, you're just a dumbass. But now it's like everything has a label. ADHD, depression, you know, we need to give you some medication to keep you more calm. Like, would you say that, you know, this over prescription or this over medication of people for mental ailments, is this a product of women entering the field?
So I would say two things. I would say because of the hyper adjustment to it, there was a hyper adjustment to having to have a fix for every issue that is mental. And then second, on top of that, Big Pharma understood that. They were able to see that and they capitalized on that and then reinforced that. So
okay,
they shifted.
So two different things going on.
Two different things going on, but they're simultaneous. They're parallel in nature.
Okay.
So
Big Pharma being greedy.
Big Pharma being greedy.
Uh-huh.
And people trying to over medicate and have a fix for every single psychological issue when some psychological issues, most people don't go to a psychologist or a therapist. And, you know, often I must say there's often confusion about who to go to as well.
Yeah.
But most people don't go there because they feel like they're crazy. Most people go there because they have an issue and they can't figure out why they can't fix the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is almost always something that they've done, but they don't want to take accountability for it, because once you take the accountability, then the change has to happen, and the change triggers something in your body. Well, it's literally in your brain. Your brain does not like change.
Yeah.
So complacency, because you can get the same dopaminergic effect from doing the same shitty thing over and over again. So kind of like what she said today, and I do agree with her, and obviously she's right about that. That's scientific. Like, for instance, if I keep hitting my head against the wall like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I keep hitting my head against the wall like a fucking idiot, and then I stop doing it, if my brain says like, listen, you got to hit your head on this fucking wall at least 3 times a day for me to feel normal. You know what I mean? That's I'm being extreme, but that's how extreme, you know, it can be sometimes. It can feel to people sometimes.
Yeah.
So instead of changing that with cognitive behavioral therapy or therapy to change your cognitive response to things, they just started medicating. And then when women got involved heavily over the years, because remember, birth control triggers a shitload, mostly, I would say like 80% of the shit that's like depression, all that stuff. Birth control is a big contributor to that. So then you get.
So you got three things going on. You got
going on.
the explosion of feminism,
right?
The mass production and usage of birth control, women becoming whores, which plays into it, being promiscuous. Then you got big pharma coming in and cashing in on this. And on top of that, you got women entering the workforce as psychiatrists / also a psychologist.
Right.
So it's almost like a 5-part drive. I don't even want to say a five-headed
dragon.
5-headed dragon almost, where it's like all these different things are kind of working together in tandem to create this problem now. Because I remember back in the day, bro, you would say, you know, oh, I went to the shrink, and everyone make fun of you. They call them shrinks. I don't think Gen Zers even know what that means.
Yeah, right.
Calling them a shrink. Like being on medication now, mental medication is completely socially acceptable, right? To be on Ritalin, to be on ADHD to be on Ritalin, what's the one that they use to focus? Adderall.
Yeah.
Right? Ritalin, Adderall, Xanax, any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It completely socially acceptable now.
It's socially acceptable. And on top of that, what makes it even worse is that they're saying that it's okay to take benzodiazepines and take amphetamines at the same time. So for instance, they're saying it's okay to take a super upper and a super down. Like, yeah, dude, this is my TikTok, man. I'm going to take you on my fucking Adderall journey, bro. I'm a pussy and I need Adderall to focus. And then like when I focus too hard, it hurts my feelings. So that I got to take Xanax to calm down.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So it's like up and then down. So you're combining two medications that really, clinically people say you should combine them, but honestly you shouldn't, because that's how Marilyn Monroe died.
Yeah. And you know, you're 37, I'm 35. I remember if someone pulled out like, you know, a Ritalin bottle or said, I got to go take my meds, we'd laugh at them and be like, you're a fucking you need medication, you're a retard, right? We'd roast them. Or we say, you're just dumb. Now, like these young guys, all of them are on medication, dude. It's like a flex to be like, yeah, I use Xanax. Or, oh, I got Adderall. I remember they were dealing Adderall on college campuses. I was like, what?
That was a big thing because it made people feel like a superhuman.
Yeah.
Because obviously it does elicit response, right? Because it is helping you focus depending on who you are, but it does help people hyper focus and it does help them hone in on things. But it also gives you an amphetamine style thing where you just feel jittery all the time. You have a lot of energy. But yeah, like what you were saying, we used to say people, you know, you can fix things without taking medication, but people would rather not do the work anymore.
Yeah.
Because there is what they perceive as a quick fix until they realize if you don't have that quick fix pill when you need it, then you hit withdrawal. Now you're an addict.
So would you say, and that was actually a good point that you made with birth control being so mainstream that it caused a lot of the problems that they're actually medicating for when it comes to the female side. So with women like infiltrated, because you're saying what, 70-30 now, pretty much? They control it?
I mean, it's probably worse than that. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say it's worse than that.
Like 80-20?
Yeah.
When it comes to both psychiatry and psychology? Both?
Psychiatry maybe a little bit better, but psychology is, I would say,
dominated
80-20.
by women all the way.
Just dominated.
Now, would you say then that does that play a significant role into this over-medication society that we have and this kind of this, I don't know, this very, you know, participation trophy type society we got going on?
I would say, so from my opinion, right, this isn't a scientific opinion or like a clinical opinion, but yeah, from my opinion, I think it is. Because listen, you introduce birth control, right? And then you have women in the field, and then you have women empathizing with women about the shit that women go through when the stuff that women are going through is caused by women taking shit that women take, you know what I mean? Like, because of feminism. Yeah. So it's like, it's a revolving door. So yeah, it's definitely contributing to that.
Is that kind of why you exited out of it and you're like, man, fuck this shit?
I talk about this all the time. Like I got out of this field quick as fuck, as quick as I possibly could, when I realized that, number one, I'm not gonna have a shot, right? Because I'm a black male, I'm gonna be talking to people, right? Yep. They don't want to hear that, number one. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't in that field, I mean. It's not that it's racist. It's just like it's dominated by white women. Yeah. So white women, they don't want me to be like, no, you're wrong. But
wouldn't they consider you like an ally to them in that?
No. They would say, I don't like this black guy talking to. They want to control me. Oh, that's how it works. So
you would only be able to come in if you're on like some cuck shit.
Yeah.
Sensitive, into feelings, you know. And here's the thing: let's be like, I know your political view. You lean right.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be far more likely to tell someone stop being a bitch.
Right.
This is all rhetoric that they probably wouldn't accept.
No, not at all. They hate it.
You know, if some dude came in and is like, bro, I'm from the streets, man. I'm black. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm a product of my environment. You probably tell him stop being a dumbass, stop sagging your pants. This is stuff that probably would get you in trouble. You know.
Oh yeah, you would get in a bunch of trouble because I'd have to empathize with the person to understand. Well, see, I ask why. I understand, like, at a foundational level, you always want to ask why to understand the baseline of a situation. But with this, it's more like, but he shot someone. You need to understand why he shot 5 people and why he's in and out of jail. Empathize. How's he feeling about it? Don't just tell him to not go to jail anymore. Tell him how to fix it. You out of your fucking mind?
That's what they would tell you.
Shooting people. Yeah,
that's literally what they would tell you.
That's how it is now. And they also, and people can verify this. They changed the DSM. They changed certain meanings in the DSM. So, like,
tell them what the DSM is, please.
That is
so they know.
The diagnostic manual. That's the diagnostic manual for basically psychology and psychiatry. It's just basically the entire diagnostic manual. It's
like the fucking cookbook of mental problems, right?
It's the Bible for them.
It's like the Pokedex.
Yeah, it's the Pokedex. It's
literally the Pokedex of mental problems, right?
Perfect example.
Yeah,
exactly what it is. And in that manual, they actually changed the word. It used to be manic depressive, right?
Yeah.
Now they changed that to bipolar. It used to be Asperger's. Now that's all grouped under autism. You know what I mean? So like, those are just light examples, but they've changed things in order to make it more palatable for this femme-centric generation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, wow, I didn't even realize that. So they've like adjusted names and stuff, so it's not as offensive.
Yeah. And then you'll hear arguments, of course. Like, you're gonna hear arguments from plenty of female. I'm in psychology, and you can hear all these arguments like, "Oh, we did it because."
Who's in charge of like the definitions and stuff? Is it the psychology world or psychiatry world?
So there's a bunch of contributions that come. Usually, you're invited as well, but there's a bunch of contributions that come from a bunch of different places, and then people review it. It's like a long, slightly arduous process, but a lot of the stuff is carried over from way back. You know what I mean? So not much changes every time. We're on the DSM-5, I believe, currently. The last time I was involved with the fields of DSM-5, but everyone was basing their knowledge or their diagnostic knowledge off of the DSM-4 because the DSM-4 held less controversial opinions and changes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was at the 5, but now I was at the 5 when everyone was using the 4. Because when the 5 came out, that's when all the, I guess you can call it DEI stuff started happening.
Gotcha.
So that's when it became more femme-centric and things like that.
The DE5. So would you say that the DSM-5 was literally like that was the turning point?
I think that was as far as the DSM, yeah, I would say that was the beginning of it.
Okay.
And then, I haven't been around.
What are they at now?
It should be still on the 5. They might be working on a 6, but they should still be on the 5. They don't release like every year. It's not like Madden, unfortunately.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's like
every couple of years they release it, update a Pokedex.
Yeah, people have to get together, decide on things, decide on certain definitions, change. Who's
in charge of that? Who runs that?
There's a governing board.
Okay.
And then
is that board run by women?
That I don't know anymore.
Okay.
I have no idea what it's run by.
Man, watching her testify made me really worried because, dude, we're getting into a place now where anything you do as a guy that your girl doesn't like can be deemed as abuse. I think that's where we're headed, dude. I genuinely believe, like, let's say your girl misbehaves, does some fuck shit. You stop talking to her for like a day or 2. They can consider that isolation abuse.
Yeah.
Or she talks shit to you, doesn't do what she's supposed to do. You don't give her money. Hey, you fucked up. You made a mistake. I'm not giving you money.
Yeah, it's
financial abuse.
And what they play on is semantics and ambiguity.
Yeah.
So like they use semantics to try to confuse you with words and word gymnastics, word salad, whatever. And then there's a significant amount of ambiguity, so you can't actually pinpoint what the crux of the situation actually was. So like if it was, let's say, like you just gave an example, isolation abuse, right?
Yeah.
Like they would just that's
me just not talking to her.
Super ambiguous term.
Yeah.
So did he not talk to you? Did he not do okay? And then
did he put you in a corner? They
right?
put you in a closet and say, stay there.
And if he did that, did he do it because he thought you were going to hurt yourself, or are you not going to admit that? You know what I mean? So like,
Good point.
yeah, right.
So, dude, I don't know, man. Like this is some wild stuff, because I could just see how this can really like come back and fuck anybody up, dude. Because now it's getting to a point where anything you do to correct bad female behavior or give them consequences can now be deemed as abuse, man. That's where we're going. And I think as women continue to infiltrate and dominate both psychology and psychiatry, well, I think look, toxic masculinity. There you go.
Yeah.
Like that I forgot about that. Like that's a whole thing that came from who brought that term out? That's from the female side of the psychiatry world.
Yeah,
Or
toxic masculinity was a term coined by a man, actually.
okay,
He's not even like a real deal psychologist or scientist. And then that's similar to emotional intelligence.
oh my god,
Yeah.
I hate that term.
Emotional intelligence is also coined by a man who was playing on the proclivity of women to fall in line with like tribalistic nature. So like if you say his emotional intelligence is bad.
Camera, bro, so you can see you.
Oh yeah, so like his emotional intelligence is bad, right? It's his fault because he's not emotionally intelligent enough. He's not emotionally intelligent. All right, so
And you know what's interesting? Women almost always use that fucking term on men only. I
Yeah,
never see them use it on each other.
they're not going to use it on each other because they're not emotionally intelligent. By their own standards, they wouldn't be considered emotionally intelligent.
And none of them can ever define it. I don't even, to this day, I still don't know what the fuck that word means.
It's not a real definition.
It's not a clinical word, right?
Made up. I think I could swear on everything. It was in either a newspaper or a magazine. This dude made it up, and it just caught. I think someone can verify that, but I think it was in a magazine or a newspaper. Some dude made it up.
So it's not a real term.
It's not a real term. No, it's not a scientific.
Because I noticed women can never define it, and they only use it as a pejorative term to men every single time.
It's a pejorative term, or it's a really good straw man for them. That's what they think. It's a really good straw, because if you're not, that's why I said if you take away someone's academic education and you leave them with street smarts and you leave them with intelligence or intellectual capability, every human being is gonna fall susceptible to a couple of things. One of them is ad hominem attacks. That's how you can judge. I think that's a good baseline judge of how you're going to interact in conversation. When someone throws an ad hominem out, and then you either yell at them, go back at them, or you either remain calm. As they say, the first person to cast a stone lost the argument. And then something like emotional intelligence, a good straw man, as far as they're concerned, where you say, I don't understand why you're acting like this.
Yeah.
And you are saying that me reacting like a man is wrong. I'm reacting like a man. All I know how to say is, how do we fix this problem?
Yeah.
All you're doing is running around the fucking circles nonstop. Well, that's because you're not emotionally intelligent enough to understand the situation I'm in. Because if you were, you understand how I'm feeling right now. And if you did, that's what they do. It's a term that explain to me what emotional intelligence is. And then after you explain to me what you think it is, describe to me what both of those words mean to you. And then we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
But they never get to that point, because they use that, they throw it out to try and derail the argument. That's all it's for.
And it's always used in a pejorative manner every single time, to almost like disqualify your understanding of the situation.
Right.
You interpret a situation in a certain way. You might, and honestly, a lot of times you interpret it from an objective manner, right? For example, she goes late to work all the time and they fire her. Well, you were going late to work all the time, and they warned you twice. You showed up late. Hey, you fucked up. Well, you're not emotionally intelligent. You don't get it that they used to abuse me and all this other stuff. So I would show up late because and they go into all this other shit. But you're making an objective and rational conclusion from her behavior. And because you don't look at the emotional side as much, she says you're not emotionally intelligent. Right. Like that's how women look at it. Like you don't understand my feelings when said event occurred. That doesn't matter though. At the end of the day,
it doesn't. And my thing is, okay, so you're saying this is called emotional intelligence, right? So there should be some sort of intelligence quotient, right? So give me the emotional intelligence version of an IQ test.
Exactly.
Where can you find that?
Exactly. You can't,
because it's not measured. There's no way to measure emotional.
Completely subjective.
Right.
And the other thing, another stupid ass term they use, verbal violence. Have you heard that one? I heard a girl, you actually use that on the show. Like, what are these fucking nonsense? Like,
you heard
that one?
TikTok. It's TikTok. These are TikTok definitions. You know what I mean? Like, you're verbally violent. You're toxic masculinity. the whole inception of toxic masculinity was simply the fact that men acted like men and women were tired of men acting like men. But as women got more of a stronghold in different fields,
Yeah.
now it became okay to say, okay, well, this is toxic behavior.
Yep.
You guys should be more emotional. You guys should, basically they're saying you guys should be more like us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not more like us, then you're not emotionally intelligent, and you're also toxically masculine, and we can't really listen to you. We don't have to listen to you, and we can say that you're hurting us in any type of way, shape, or form, which brings it all home to exactly what you're talking about. It makes it extremely dangerous. The precedent that was sent with the testimony from this lady.
Yeah.
today.
Because now it's like anything that you do to a girl that she doesn't like can be labeled as abuse, man.
Anything.
Like anything. Because it's subjective and open to her interpretation. And let's say she's not fucking all there. Not all the marbles are there.
Like the economic abuse thing to me was really, really hilarious, right? So she was talking about the economic abuse. I know we talked about the laptop thing.
Yeah.
But let's talk in a broad spectrum manner. So you're saying a woman, let's just use male or female. Let's say the woman is the one being economically abused here. So there's economic abuse taking place, right? If this woman is feeling that she's economically abused, that means she's living a traditional lifestyle, right? Because that would mean that the man is taking care of everything.
Yeah.
Because if the man isn't if she isn't living a traditional lifestyle and the man isn't taking care of, and she's an independent woman who happened to get with a guy, there's no way she could be economically abused.
Facts.
Because she had her own beforehand and during and should after.
Yep.
So, it's like I said, it's all about.
And not only that,
application.
now that you mention it, these like stupid terms that they use, economic abuse, financial, whatever, it actually disincentivizes women to become traditional housewives. Now that I think about it.
Right.
Like, because it's almost like they coin these terms to encourage women to make their own money and continue on with the feminist rhetoric.
It is, because it's funny, in court, as I'm sitting next to you and I'm laughing to myself because we laughed at something that happened in court, and the very next thought was, everything they're saying can be applied.
Oh, and the bitches were mad at us, by the way.
The women,
I don't know if you saw those two like fucking chicks that
in the back
that were sitting behind us. Like, are you guys together? That wasn't them asking if we're together. They were trying to figure out why we're saying the things that we were saying.
Yeah, they're
trying to ascertain where we're from.
A whole row almost.
Yeah, they were trying to. You know what I mean? Like,
they're very upset about it.
They were not happy about it. And then an elevator.
Oh, the elevator.
I was like, well, bro, what this abuse? He beat her ass. Like, well, she hit him too.
Yeah,
two feminists in an elevator got triggered when we were having a conversation about this shit, man.
Yeah, we're not here to we're not talking about the morality of Sean Combs or whoever else. What we're here to discuss is the fact that we're in court. We have to look at the objectivity of the situation, and we're trying to figure out if his charges are going to stick. We don't care. I don't give a shit if he hit her. I mean, it's bad. I wouldn't hit women, but it's just like it's not what I'm here for. And then she butt into the conversation, which was the problem. She inserted herself into a conversation that she had no point in, and then she wanted to use her emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
to virtue signal.
Yeah. It's like, man, this is just like, the more I think about this, the more it's like, this is actually very, very scary. This is a big case. It's a federal case. Diddy's looking at effectively for him life.
Yeah.
And we got a psychologist in there who's in there as a subject matter expert, giving extremely fucking, ambiguous definitions or using ambiguous terms that, quite frankly, any woman can use. Because now you can, like, what? Okay, let's say your wife that you live with disobeys you, and you say, you know what? No ice cream for you this Friday. I'm not going to give you no money to go ice cream. And now that's economic and financial abuse now.
That's true. It's not even exaggerated. That's the crazy part. You're not even exaggerating.
They can use that as financial abuse.
Almost some of the things today were borderline like that. I was like, what the? Like, when she brought up the laptop thing, that's when I knew it was like just this inherent bias, and she was talking to them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because there was no way she's going to.
Yeah, that was a very descriptive fact.
Super descriptive. And that's abuse. Like, what if he's going to take away her laptop? The bitch has a job. The bitch had money before Puffy and will after Puffy. Buy another one. Leave. You're going to stay with him because that nigga has your laptop? Get the fuck out of here. So you're going to keep getting beat and everything else that you alleged because the nigga has your laptop.
Now, here's my thing, right? I think we got to get to a point now where we got to tell these women, you got two options, bitch. It's either we treat you like an equal, right? And you have all the agency and responsibility of a man, which means if you're in a bad relationship, you got to fucking leave, okay? You're not going to sit here and say economic abuse, financial abuse, I couldn't leave, Stockholm syndrome, all this fuck shit. Or we go back to treating you guys like fucking children with no agency, where a man needs to pretty much run your entire life, which is how it's been since the beginning of time, right? Isn't it amazing how all these different cultures kind of understood that men need to be the leaders and women need to kind of follow their lead? And they did it specifically because of shit like this. So it's like, if we're going to have feminism and we're going to have women be equal to men, which is what feminism is, right? Then we got to give you guys, we're going to give you guys the equality that you guys want, which means that you got to deal with the responsibility. But now we're getting to a point where they have all the agency with none of the responsibility, and they can regress to childlike responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me, and this is scary because who has to bear the brunt of everything? The man. And then they wonder why guys don't want to get married. They wonder why guys don't want to get involved in serious relationships. It's dangerous now.
Yeah. Overcorrecting for agency actually stripped them of their agency and allows other women like this psychologist to strip them of their agency by saying that they can't make conscious decisions for themselves.
Yeah. That's what this is. Because they're trying to double dip. And it's like not enough people are calling this shit out. Like I feel like I'm like a crazy man right now. Right? If I were to talk about this, people will say, oh, you're a misogynist, whatever. No, this is a serious fucking problem. We literally have a subject matter expert testifying in one of the biggest cases ever, taking agency away from Cassie, who is an adult, clearly had sound mind, right? Clearly doing what she wanted to do. She admitted to even the assistant who says against Diddy, oh, I don't want to leave because I get an allowance and I live a certain lifestyle. And what happens? Now they're sitting here running cover for her.
Right. You shouldn't have lived that lifestyle. Also, one other thing, you didn't really give your opinion on this, but I wanted to know what you think about it. The fact that they tried to, let's say, effectively manipulate her sexual nature and say that, well, effectively manipulate the way she went about her sexual nature by saying that she could have been trying to placate him. Now, I'm not saying that's not entirely false, but she was engaging in some pretty crazy shit, and everything was on her. Everything was on her devices, and she was calling these people, including the Punisher, Mr. Meat Freezer. She was calling Mr. Meat Freezer all the time.
Yeah.
And from his understanding, they had a great relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Diddy was doing some weird shit, smacking his meat in the corner with a cowboy hat on, whatever the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
But she had, from his understanding and his testimony, they had a fine relationship and she liked it.
You know what? I'm glad that you brought that up. She coordinated the freak-offs chat.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that's very important for people to understand. Like, she coordinated the freak-offs, okay? She was calling them. She was paying them. She was setting up the hotels. She's getting dressed. She's putting her manicure, doing a manicure, putting the lingerie on, going to the store. She took significant overt steps in multiple situations for years to make these freak-offs a thing. At some point, you can't be a victim anymore. You just can't. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's like, at what point are we going to draw the fucking line here? Or is it still economic and financial abuse when she's the one that's coordinating everything? Because Diddy's a busy nigga, bro.
Yeah.
Right? So like he delegates. One thing I noticed about Diddy from this trial is this nigga lazy. He don't do nothing himself. He doesn't do shit himself, chat. We're going to get into that with the last guy testimony. Nigga doesn't do nothing himself, bro. So I already know after the first three freak-offs, okay, you take that, baby. You do this shit. So she had a very involved role in this.
Absolutely.
Because she can't have it both ways. She said, I can't do my career because I'm so busy doing this. So if you're so busy coordinating these freak-offs, you got to bear some responsibility for this then.
Right.
Because she literally complained and said, I'm doing it so much, I can't do my music or do anything else. So that tells me that you're heavily involved and you're making this decision.
Correct.
Can't have it both ways.
Not to mention, like her friend, even just small testimony that ties into that, like her friend saying they all did drugs together, they all had fun, they all loved each other, they had a loving relationship.
Good point.
So it's like, oh, so what's going on here? If you're having this great time, loving relationships, good times, bad times, more bad.
Yeah, I went to Burning Man 3 times, bro. Niggas camping in the desert. Have you been to Burning Man before?
Do me a favor, like the page, the single hubby, right wing Rico, the single boyfriend on YouTube. Like the page. We're going to keep going with commentary. Thank you guys for staying tuned in. This is actually good material.
Listen, like, I'm not saying women don't tell the truth. I'm not saying that there aren't victims. Like, obviously, I'm privy to the fact that things do happen in the world. I'm absolutely privy to that fact, and I'm also, not ashamed to use data to solidify points and stuff like that. I get it, and all of that is relevant at some point in time. However, as it pertains to this case and what it can do and the precedent that it can send, it's extremely damaging and scary, because you don't want someone to be able to say, this dude wouldn't let me leave the house, or this time we had sex one way, but I didn't like the fact that he put it in that hole this time. Even if he slipped, he shouldn't have slipped. There's such a slippery slope that this can go down, man. And so you don't want any of this.
Setting very dangerous precedent, man. And that's
Very
my
dangerous
biggest
precedent.
problem here is like, goddamn, dude, like, what the fuck are we gonna, like, bro? Well, I guess we're gonna see. And here's the other thing too. Another big red flag. Cassie talked to prosecutors,
right?
Because, and this is very important for you guys to understand. So when the defense would cross-examine Cassie, they would say, you sat down with agents and prosecutors. That means that she got something called a proffer or a 5K letter, which means she's not going to be prosecuted. Why do you need a proffer letter? You want to know why, guys? That means that you committed a crime too. And you're basically providing this information to the government, providing substantial assistance, and that keeps you from going to jail as long as you're truthful and you provide assistance. He sat down with prosecutors. AUSAs don't like to sit down with defendants. They will only sit down with you if you're getting a letter because they don't want to be witness to a crime, right? Because they got to argue, they got to legislate, right? And they don't want to be in a witness stand. So the fact that she sat down with prosecutors and got a fucking 5K letter in itself tells you that she should be accountable to this. They have to give her a proffer letter for her to not be accountable. And then you got this fucking psychiatrist coming in or psychologist coming in and testifying even more so, saying she's not accountable. This is the gynocentric society, the gynocracy at work.
It is.
And it's like me and you are the only people that are seeing this.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, actually.
Like, I'm looking at this through a red lens, guys. This is a very, like, this is why I think this is one of the most important episodes, because we have a trending case, the biggest case in the United States right now. And one of the main witnesses is a woman who feels like she was abused, but the government had to give her a proffer letter, right? Because she was so intertwined in the criminal activity, because she was the one organizing a lot of this shit, helping the enterprise. He gets immunity. They come after Diddy. I'm not saying that he's an angel. Hell, I'm not even saying he's innocent. But what I am saying is I find it interesting that he's being prosecuted for this. The woman that's making the allegations had to get a fucking 5K letter, and then they bring in a psychologist to testify to take accountability from her. And it's like, man, you're the only ones in the courtroom that see this shit.
It was wild. It was a wild experience. I don't understand it, bro. Yeah, the psychologist is.
Yo, we're cooked.
It's over with. The psychologist,
and she's a board certified. 40 of them in New York.
Yeah. She's top.
Would
tier.
you say that like the psychology world like would hold those same opinions that she has? Like, are we that fried?
From what I understand, it's like, and I'm throwing out numbers here.
It's scary, bro.
I don't have data, but from what I understand, at least from what I know, people I talk to, it's like 50-50. 50% of the people are like, she's just saying a bunch of shit. And then 50% of the people are agreeing with her, like, yeah, this all makes sense because what she's saying makes sense from a psychological standpoint. But once again, she left too much room for ambiguity with it. So that's the issue. Is that, yeah, even if you said like she didn't use any scientific terms. So I'll give you an example of why her testimony is a little strange. So you know how she was talking about the fear response, right?
Yeah.
Explain
it real quick to the audience because they're probably wondering what fear response was.
Oh yeah, so they're talking. She was talking about how like you explain how you react to a fearful situation or when trauma happens. Her number one word, her go-to word of the day was trauma. So the trauma response, right?
Yep.
So not once did she give any scientific explanation of how it works. All she said was, trauma, and then because of the traumatic experience, people could be less inclined to leave or attempt to leave because they're scared. She never once said anything about the amygdala or how the amygdala influences fear. She never said anything about the hippocampus. She never said anything about.
You think she did that to not confuse the jury, though?
No, I think she did that because she didn't. If she started getting into the science, then she could trip herself up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because the prefrontal cortex is like what people refer to as the governing sector. So it allows you to carry out the shit, because usually you want to stop bad shit from happening before it reaches the prefrontal cortex. And once it reaches there, it's game time's over with. Okay. So,
and guys, like the video, only got 1.5K likes. So we're giving you guys this fucking big psychology red pill right now of what the fuck is going on here. Because guys, we're on the cutting edge of this stuff right now with this case. This is setting a precedent. I'm sorry, bro. Keep going.
No,
like the video, guys. 2000.
But yeah, that shit like that. It's like you have to explain scientifically. If you're going to say I came here in the name of science, you got to use science so that when people in the outside world or psychologists or people that understand this stuff or even study it with a freaking, a GED even, and they understand this stuff. If you're going to say you're here in the name of science, use scientific stuff. But if you do that and you're not as well versed in it, or you may have slipped the bandwagon, jumped the bandwagon to the DEI side when before you were on the other side, you might trip yourself up. And I think that's why she did that. Mm-hmm. It's just people just want the truth, pretty much. They just want the truth straight up. They don't want to hear all these psychological hula hooping explanations and shit like that. They just want you to say what it is. Like this, she's acting like this because of this, and this is how this works with the brain. Mm-hmm. Like tell people when she was getting beat, it was releasing serotonin because she's used to it. Like say some shit like that. Yeah. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear she was getting beat and she might have been scared and then she called her cousin and her cousin told her to stay. And no one wants to hear that female shit. Just say what it is, the science.
So before we get into the last guy, George Kaplan, aka one of them boys, what's your prediction, bro, on the future of this? Like you're in the game, you've been to many of these conferences, you've shaken hands and met these people. Obviously, you're very familiar with this because your background in academia. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen, man? In this field, and as it pertains to masculinity and what's going on. Give us the red pill.
I think it's shot.
Future.
I think the field is shot. Unless they do something about these DEI hiring and all that stuff and all this equity hiring, I think the field is shot. I think they need to encourage men to get into the field more so we can set some boundaries. I don't think it's going to happen for a long time, though. I'm thinking maybe even 15 years because you got to remove the old guard.
And the women are the ones hiring now, right?
The women are the one hiring.
So if you're not in a empathy thing like you were saying before, cooked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a large possibility that here's the thing, there's a large possibility that if you aren't with the whole empathy gang, as I call it, if you aren't with the empathy gang, if you aren't with the letter gang and shit like that, and you're just trying to come and do your job and do the best that you can do at your job to try and help people, they don't want that shit. They want people that are gonna kumbaya with them and shit and take their word as law. You know what I mean? And take their feelings as law, regardless of the science, because science doesn't always matter. That's one of the most famous things they say now. Science doesn't always matter.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So like, I think
that's what they say, right? That's what
people say it all
that's
the
what
time.
that world, that's what they're saying in that world now.
They don't, science doesn't always apply. Science is not always applicable, and emotional intelligence is the two things that you hear the most.
So we got psychologists and psychiatrists using the term emotional intelligence now?
Absolutely. 100%. There's probably people in school right now that are their psychology or psychiatry professors using emotional intelligence over and over and over and over again. It's
So we're cooked, bro.
It's like that.
We just call it like it is, bro. Like we're cooked then.
Yeah, we are.
So do you predict that more people are going to be on SSRIs, medication to, like, we're just going to be even more medicated? Because it's terrible, bro. I see kids, teenagers. Oh yeah, I'm on Ritalin. I'm on ADHD medication. What?
Yeah, they were putting kids on Ritalin way back in the 90s, but generally speaking, they would put the kids who were like real problem children, like who were going to BOCES and shit. They put those kids on Ritalin. Now they're putting kids on Ritalin, and the mechanism of action for basically the way the medicine works is really screwing up these kids.
Gotcha.
And there are studies that are trying to correlate that with like the school shootings and things of that nature.
School shootings weren't a thing before 1999.
Yeah,
they were not. Columbine kicked it off, and that was the beginning.
There was one girl in the United States who did it
before Columbine
in like the 70s.
In this, okay,
like a feminist.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
look it up.
Well, they're sick in the brain, so that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah.
Bruh. Yeah, that's a good point. No, school shootings didn't exist prior to Columbine, really. Maybe one time in the 70s, like you mentioned, but
yeah, I don't think that the field is going to have a good time. I think that they're going to continue, like the antidepressants. Men are getting on them more, but women love antidepressants.
Oh yeah, they dominate.
And it's placebo, a lot of it. You know, because you're telling women, you're suggesting something. Women are suggestive creatures, malleable creatures. So I'm suggesting to you that this medicine should and or could work. But if it doesn't, you won't know the fucking difference anyway.
Yeah.
So take it and let's figure it out. And then you tell yourself, I feel better. But you know what really happens is they do that. They take the SSRIs or it's SSNIs, SSRIs. They take the antidepressants in combination with, let's say, a Xanax, a benzodiazepine, to calm down the anxiety. So they never get enough anxiety up for their body to learn how to deal with stressful situations, right? So they start that young.
Not to mention they drink, they party, they don't sleep, they don't drink water. Bro, I don't know what it is. Women don't drink water.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah, that's a weird thing.
Yo,
and they talk about it too. They like flex it.
Yeah, like bitches don't drink water, bro. It's weird. It's really weird.
They don't have enough for for their bloodstream to operate properly.
Yeah. They live like shitty lives. Guys, I'd like all of you guys to shadow a regular female one day. They eat weird shit. Like they don't eat like protein. They don't eat healthy food. They eat like random stuff. Like they'll eat like 7 fries. Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm full now. And drink water. And drink like a diet Dr. Pepsi or some shit. And then like they don't exercise, bro. It's just crazy, like how it is. Like, anyway, whatever. I can talk shit about that all day.
Neuropsychology is nothing's going great. I mean, they're trying to make advances in certain things, but they're gonna keep taking the antidepressants because, like I said, it's either you take.
So you think we're just gonna continue to get even more medicated, right?
You just get more medicated and more medicated until it hits a breaking point. So until it hits a climax and a plateau. And then you start to go back down. But as of right now, no, just give me more medication. What I was going to say is it's not usually the medication that's working. It's a combination of medication and therapy, but it's really the therapy teaching them to have better habits. And then they think it's the medication.
Gotcha.
Right. And so that's what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah. And Big Pharma's not going to stop. They're making a killing.
Yeah. No way.
They're making a fucking killing, dude. They're not going to say shit. So, all right, let's get into the last witness here and then we'll close this thing out. George Kaplan, and guys, shout out to Chad. Thank you, bro, for coming, man. I asked you last minute to come with me, and you just came, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate everything, man.
Yeah, man.
Seriously.
And we're working on some big shit behind the scenes, by the way, as well, guys. So we'll see what happens. George Kaplan, 34 years old. This was the next witness that came out. What's this guy, number what, 12 or some shit now?
Yeah, 12 or 13.
So George Kaplan, one of them boys, he worked for Nickelodeon for 7 months prior as an executive assistant. Then he worked for Combs Enterprises, which is the holding company for all of Diddy's companies. Then he ended up becoming Diddy's assistant. He worked at 1710 Broadway. He worked as the executive assistant. This was in from 2013 to 2015. He reported to Christina Courtroom, KK, who ran Diddy's life. He basically reported Diddy's house in LA, 200 Mapleton, Los Angeles, California. Carried his bags, made sure everything was taken care of. He worked there longer. He worked a lot of hours. He worked 80 to 100 hours a week. He made around 125K per year, right?
120, no, not per year, 125K in 15 months.
In 15 months,
and then he got paid out that same rate for the last 3 months of his employment.
Okay. He started work at 9:30 a.m. and that can fluctuate as to when he would go. Earliest he ever got off was 6:30 p.m., but he was also the latest he would get off at 6:30 a.m. Also worked those slave hours, as you guys know. Diddy was working on a mixtape at the time when he came in, so they were super busy. He also was familiar with the security. Diddy had homes in Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, Miami, and Los Angeles, New York City, New Jersey, New York, the Hamptons, and Miami. He discussed with Diddy. He basically got Diddy whatever he needed: food, drugs, iPads, whatever. Diddy threatened his job monthly. He claimed he only wanted the best. One story he gave was where Diddy told him to go to Whole Foods to get him a gallon of water. And he couldn't find this gallon of water, so he got him 2 half gallons of water and brought it. And Diddy got in his face and yelled at him and said that he would fire him, which is fucking nuts. Like, but you know, I'm not surprised, bro. When he told that story, I was like, you know what? This is how this nigga really is. That makes them do weird shit.
Yeah.
Remember making a band? He made them go all the way to Brooklyn for cheesecake.
Cheesecake. Slap you over cheesecake. That shit was.
He was really like that.
He's really about
like
that.
we thought like, okay, MTV comedic effect, make these niggas walk all the way to Brooklyn because they're in Manhattan. That's a long walk. You live in Brooklyn.
That's a long.
Can you describe to them like how the fuck?
Yo, you got. Let me explain how fucking long.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to cross one of 2 bridges, either the Manhattan or the Brooklyn Bridge. Think about that. That's a bridge now. The length of the bridge.
Because they were in Manhattan when that happened, right?
They were in Manhattan in the 1710 Broadway office. So they worked from 1710 all the way to Brooklyn.
So they filmed it from there.
Yeah,
even back then.
So they went to Junior's for some cheesecake. Junior's is downtown Brooklyn. That means even after you get off the bridge, still got a little bit to go.
Wow.
So them niggas walked. That nigga wasn't playing.
How many miles was that?
I mean, city miles. So you want to say 2.8, but 2.8 city miles is a hike.
Yeah.
3 city miles is hike because
you're
going through different.
Because you're passing blocks, you're stopping at the
and
thing.
Over water.
Traffic is coming.
It's why it's a long ass walk.
It took them hours, didn't it?
Because Long Island, so like 3 miles of Long Island, I could do 3 miles of Long Island in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, 3 miles out of here could take me between 45 to an hour and 45, depending on traffic and who's in the street.
Yeah,
It's
because
crazy.
every block you have to stop. You can't keep walking, and that adds up over time.
And then like the terrain, like you got to cross a bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
So yeah, guys, long story short, that making a band shit was not a joke. That's how he really is. He be slaving niggas, bro. Let's see here. So he set up hotel rooms for Diddy. First, he unpacked baby. He would pack the shit for him. Baby oil, Astroglide, speaker, candles, liquor. He purchased supplies with a corporate credit card. He would get told ahead of time where to go if Diddy needed him there, or he would fly a private jet with him. Diddy stayed at the hotel for 12 hours to multiple days. He went to a room after Diddy left. Interesting thing, this guy job that he had. So apparently, these hotels guys were selling pictures to magazines and other tabloids after a celebrity stayed at their hotel room.
Yeah.
So, and if there was anything embarrassing left there, they would take pictures of it. So this guy, what he would do, and I find it interesting, this is the emergence of social media now, 2013, right? This is when he started working for him. So this guy's job was after every hotel stay, he would go in there and clean it up, chat. And remember, in the early 2000s, how they said that Diddy would get in trouble and they'd like charge him money for fucking shit up at the hotels. He would also make sure that, nothing was fucked up like that so they wouldn't charge him money. But he said there would be baby oil all over the place and fucking Gatorades and shit.
Baby oil, Gatorade.
But that was his job, bro. Nigga would come in and clean up after a freak off.
Yeah. He said baby oil everywhere too.
Yeah.
Gatorade and then Astroglide.
Bruh.
And he said it would be in his bag too.
Yeah. He had to work to protect Diddy's image. Because the image, he would protect the image because they would obviously sell the pictures. D contacted him frequently when they're at the hotels. It could be anything from getting him food, clothes, to drugs. He bought drugs for Diddy on 2 different occasions. One time he bought MDMA in Miami, gave the guy cash. Another time he bought him some drugs. It was pills. He didn't know what it was. This was in Bel Air. He went all the way to Hollywood, got the drugs, brought it back to Diddy, paid for it in cash. And that's where the testimony ended. So we're going to follow up the next day with this guy. He was walking around with the HSI detail, so I predict he has some shit to say. Remember, we're gonna get in an elevator, and they said no.
I'm not gonna hold you. That shit creeped me out a little bit. If you're next to me, I was like, who are these niggas?
Yeah.
They were like,
So guys, we're in courtroom number 20 and on the 24th floor. They're up filming in 20, not filming, but they're up in 26. We're in one of the overflows. So we click the thing to go down. The witness is in there and 2 HSI agents. We're about to get in the elevator. It's like, nope, you guys can't get on. And that's when you saw him, right?
Yeah,
he looked weird, didn't he?
That posture. I was just gonna say that posture, the raccoon eyes, like he was on.
He had raccoon eyes, yeah.
Like he looked like he was on drugs for a couple, or like in preparation.
Yeah, he was on a bender.
Like he was on a bender. Like, damn, I got to testify against Diddy. But I will say the one correlation I can draw between both of them, James, the other assistant, the first assistant, and him, is that there seems to be some loyalty to Diddy. Like they're giving facts out so they don't get in trouble.
Yeah,
but there seems to be some cohesiveness of loyalty.
Yeah. They're not like completely shitting on him too bad.
Because he, damn well he knew what drugs were in that thing.
Oh yeah, bro.
And he was like, I couldn't tell you. It's just a bag.
Yeah. Just like it's very obvious too that they got subpoenaed and they're forced to testify.
Right.
The other guy said, yeah, you guys, subpoenaed me twice. The other girl, Carrie Morgan, straight up said she didn't want to be there.
Right.
Like they subpoenaed her too. So a couple of these witnesses are actually there extremely reluctantly.
Yeah, and it's funny because Carrie Morgan actually, I think,
and Carrie Morgan, just so you guys know, that's Cassie's best friend. We didn't talk too much about her testimony because it was kind of boring. Like basically, she confirmed a lot of the things that they went on trips, went to Burning Man. Her and Diddy were friends. Didn't she send a long ass text to Diddy?
She sent a long ass poem to Diddy. Yeah, she sent a long.
Can you talk about that? Because I didn't get a chance to talk.
So
about
what
that.
happened was Diddy wanted to get Cassie something for her birthday. He wanted what's her name again?
Cassie or Carrie Morgan?
Carrie Morgan. He wanted Carrie,
the white girl.
The white girl.
She a thought, bro, too.
She is. She looks
obvious.
like one. Yeah, obvious thought.
Partying in New York City in the early 2000s, cooked.
Yeah, super thought. Wouldn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But she
wrote a poem.
Yeah, she wrote a poem to Diddy.
Yep.
To help him with Cassie's birthday preparations, essentially, But she was writing an affirmation poem to Diddy, so it was weird because he wanted help with with Cassie's birthday stuff.
Yep.
Then it was a blank text. She clarified the defense saying that the text was blank. And then after that, there was an affirmation poem. And she was they used that to lead him and say, well, you're sending him affirmation words, And then she said, yeah, he was just going through stuff and she was trying to help him. And then they asked, do you know this girl? Then they brought up Cassie's friend. Cassie's other close friend who used to give her drugs and do drugs with her. They brought her up a couple of times. And they got her to say,
which girl?
Forgot her name exactly. She was the one on the right side of the picture. It's a picture of Cassie, Carrie, and then the girl. She was there twice. She went to Burning Man with them. She was upstate in the upstate photo. She was there too. When they were all together, when they were together with the dudes.
White girl?
No, she was like
Asian,
light-skinned Asian looking.
Rana?
Yeah, that one. Is that her?
Yeah, but she didn't testify.
No, she didn't testify.
They talked about her. That's the bitch that Diddy held over the balcony.
Yeah. They were saying that she did a lot of drugs too.
Yeah. That's the Asian girl that he held over the balcony, Bona.
And also the big thing, well, I don't know, you might have spoken about it, is with the $30,000.
Oh yeah, okay. That's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So guys, the main testimony that you need to know for Gary, thank you for saying that, Chad.
Of course.
Basically, this is your takeaway. Diddy shows up at the house. He has a key for Cassie's house in LA. He shows up, opens the door. Cassie sees him come in. She locks herself in the bathroom. Diddy's irate over some shit. He hits Carrie Morgan with
There's a wooden hanger.
He hits her with a wooden hanger. She gets a concussion from it, apparently. That nigga must have hit her hard, bro.
Well, she said he came around, grabbed her throat.
Yes.
Somehow. And then while grabbing her throat, threw a wooden hanger as she was running away. Like
something like that. And then hits her in the head. I don't know what the fuck happened. Fair. This nigga, because she said he flung it like a boomerang.
Yeah.
And where did he get the wooden hanger? Shit. Of all, whatever. So anyway, guys, I know it sounds fucking far-fetched. I'm just telling y'all niggas what she said. He comes in, going crazy. Cassie locks herself in the bathroom. He grabs her by the neck and is kind of choking her. Then he hits her in the head with a wooden hanger. She gets a concussion. So she goes and hires a lawyer, tells the lawyer that she wants to sue. A month later, Cassie meets up with her at a pizza shop and slides her an NDA and says, hey, sign this NDA. We'll give you 30. They're going to give you 30,000. What's her name? Takes the money. Third defense, what? This is 2008?
Yeah. She was going.
So this is like 08? Was it?
It's 2013, I think, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
2018. Yeah. Sorry. And then that's why they're not friends anymore, because Carrie felt like Cassie didn't have her back.
Yeah.
But she got her 30K, which is the equivalent today, what, 40,000 now?
Yeah, she got her the 30K. The problem with that was, I think that the problem that she had with it was that Cassie basically said to her in woman speak, as you guys
Oh,
know,
you're being dramatic. You're
dragging
being
it.
dramatic about
Yeah,
this.
you're dragging
Yes.
this shit. You're being dramatic. Like,
Yeah.
that she was saying that. That's what she didn't like about it. Like, she said that, and then she didn't believe her, and then she felt like she did the due diligence and not calling the cops on Diddy, and Cassie came up to her like, "Yo, yeah, you're exaggerating this, bro. Take this 30K, get the fuck out of my face."
Basically,
Yeah.
that's really what it was. And she slid her the NDA too, and they met at a pizza shop.
At a pizza shop in the
No
Hollywood
lawyers,
Hills.
no nothing, just them.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, yeah. So that's the main thing you guys need to know about the Kerry Morgan shit. A lot of it was historical stuff. I forgot about the poem. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we need to talk about? I think the most important thing was talking about the red pill shit about this psychiatrist coming in that's clearly a fucking feminist.
100%.
And where we're going as a nation when it comes to criminal law and criminal procedure and witnesses. And guys, we're getting to a point now where any type of punitive behavior towards your woman is going to be looked at as abuse. That's where we're going. That's where I see us.
I agree. And think about it. They literally reused the same woman who made the other woman lose one of the biggest cases ever.
What,
the Amber Heard case.
Oh, yes.
They
So
have enough gall, to be like, we'll just reuse her because her testimony is important.
Man, I wish y'all could have heard the testimony, but it's federal court, so y'all can't hear. So we have to come in and report it for you guys. But yeah, bro. That's it, really, man.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
That summarized it.
There was nothing that I think was that was extremely crazy about it. You know what I mean? There was some stuff. Today, outside of what you touched upon, there wasn't really anything crazy. And then the other stuff, for continuity's sake, there was, like the guy James, the personal assistant. He also, that story that he told that they are trying to say wasn't real. I think that's the only other thing, because he told a story about riding around with D-Rock and Diddy with 3 handguns on Diddy's lap.
Oh yeah,
Diddy was like, basically, Diddy let this nigga know in so many words, you about to pull up on these niggas. You got to shoot something
on Suge Knight.
On Suge Knight
yesterday, yeah.
And they're trying to say that story's fake. There's no way, because they were like, didn't you leave D-Rock? You didn't leave D-Rock by himself at the McDonald's or wherever the fuck they were. He's like, I'm telling you, dog, I didn't leave D-Rock.
Yeah.
Because why would I leave him, the security dude? So
yeah,
there was that. But then that was it.
All right, I'll read some chats here. So super chats. We got only right wing in Cali. Hey, Mario, I'm 19 years old. Just got approved for my second credit card. I have 767 credit score. Any advice how to stay on track or what else I could do? Increase your credit limit. Keep it below 30%. You'll be straight. Make 100% on time payments. Mr. TT Kaka says, if he said he 39 on Wi-Fi, that means 39 wireless and his default. You need to have a wired connection to live stream L producer. Bro, that has nothing to do with Chad though. Like this place comes like that.
Yeah, and I also suggested the Ethernet thing.
Yeah, Act Studio just doesn't have Ethernet internet, bro. I love the show. Great insight and information on this case. Would you ever consider doing another Avengers panel with Diddy the Diddler, the OG OJ Simpson, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and Ghislaine Maxwell? Give it a good work. All right, nigga. Dr. B84, psychiatry is 4 years of residency training after med school. They can prescribe antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and antipsychotic medications, name a few. They're also trained to do psychotherapy. Okay, that's Dr. B84 is one of the docs that watch the show. Thank you. So yeah, they're actually doctors. Anti-Semcat goes, Charlie Kirk just got cucked. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Nikhil says, Chad, if you actually went to Harvard, what house were you in, and what was your go-to late night food spot in the square?
So I actually started off in Kennedy School. I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to give out too much stuff. And also my favorite thing in the Coop. Well, I used to go to the Coop and hang out at the Coop, and then I never really ate in the food square. I always left campus to go eat because there was a lot of, there's a couple of spots there. There's the cafeteria, but I didn't really stick around there. I stuck around the river, and then I would go and leave to go get my food simply because, I'm not even on camera.
Yeah. And the Kennedy School, can you describe,
let's just say it's the school, the politics school.
The political science school, right?
Yeah, they call it public policy.
Okay.
Yeah. I never really ate on campus because I never found anything on campus too like delicious. And when I was there, I was always getting lost. So yeah.
It's a fairly big campus for only 5,000 students, bro.
Yeah, it's a huge campus. Like there's this, I used to use the big, I think it's a bank. There's like a big bank with like a clock on it. I used to use that to orient myself because if you orient yourself across directly from the clock, that's where the buses start.
Yeah. And you got your grad degree from there.
Yeah, my grad. I didn't go to undergrad.
Yeah, he didn't go to undergrad at Harvard, guys. He got his you got your master's there, right?
Yeah, my master's.
You got his master's at Harvard.
Didn't go to undergrad there.
That's
right though.
Yeah. I don't know what it is that they're. Well, there you go. Does that answer your question, Nikhil?
It's because I'm black.
Yeah, probably. Niggas is like,
I'm
no way this nigga went to Harvard. Some nigga in the chat said he got a coach hat on. No way this nigga went to Harvard.
Bro.
Oh, man.
That's great.
All right. Psych testimony should have been more broad, ambiguous. Her coming to me after the case started allowed her to tailor her testimony to Diddy and also shows more tact on her and the prosecution behalf. Negates objectivity. Absolutely. Good shit. You're catching it, TR. Nikhil says, Chad, if you actually went to Harvard, what house were you in and what was your... Okay, we mentioned that already. Manny Wilson says, Bolshevik Gains. I've been watching your videos for a month now. I got a question for you. Will you ever have a Gypsy Crusader in Fresh Fit After Hours or just interview him? I don't think he would come on, bro. A lot of these guys are separatists, and and that's fine. I defend their right to be separatists, but they don't want to work with colored people, which is fine. It is what it is, man. I put in this question yesterday, but left early. But I like Gypsy Crusader. All those guys are funny as fuck, to be honest with y'all. Issy Wealthy says, I put in this question yesterday, but left early. What do you think about Diddy's legal team reaching out to Trump for a pardon? I did answer it. He's not gonna get it. No way. I mean, what do you think about that, bro? Diddy's team reaching out for a pardon?
I think that's absolutely fucking hilarious, but there's absolutely.
I mean, it's worth a shot.
It's worth everything's worth a shot.
But he ain't gonna get it.
I think they were trying to play off the fact that Trump just came off cases that people would think were similar in nature, but they're not similar in nature at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worth the shot, but we'll see. I think if this case continues to play out like this,
because Diddy's a lifelong Democrat, bro.
He is, but if the court of public opinion says that Diddy should have gotten off, then maybe Trump will consider it, and that'll be a good political play.
Trump is a populist, bro. So enough people let's say Diddy gets convicted, and enough people are like, this is bullshit, blah blah blah, like they did with the January 6ers. Who knows? But I'll tell you this: he ain't gonna pardon him. You know when he'll pardon him? End of his term. Pardoning is, guys, remember, presidents pardon at the end of their term because it's very unfavorable. The only reason Trump pardoned the J6ers in the beginning is to make a statement. But 9 out of 10 times, pardons are always done at the end of the term. So if he's going to pardon Diddy, I guarantee y'all he'll pardon him at the end if he does it. Yo, can you hit on the Rumble Studio, click donations on the middle? I don't know if you see it. Or chat. Is there anything there? I know Rumble was all fucked up anyway.
I don't see any. I don't see donations. I see.
If it's blank, that's fine because they couldn't even watch on Rumble anyway. None? Okay, yeah. It's because the Rumble didn't work the whole time. So, all right, cool, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm gonna actually go into YouTube right now and clean this thing up for you guys where there was lag and shit like that. Yo, chat, where can the people find you, bro?
Man, I don't really, I'm not.
I know you're not a social media guy, but I'm Instagram, whatever.
I'm like that. Yeah. So I mean, on Instagram,
you know what? There's probably guys that want to go to Harvard. I'll be honest with you, or want to go to the Ivies.
So
they might hit you up for that.
Just the guy who talks is my Instagram. That's literally what it is. Just the guy who talks.
Just the guy who talks.
Just the guy who talks. That's all I am. And then
and if you guys say you found him through Fresh or Fit, like he'll respond to your DM probably.
Yeah, of course. And then on YouTube, I don't have content like that right now. Like that. I deal with the tech side of stuff. And if I decide to come over to this side, we'll see.
Cool. Yeah. Very knowledgeable guys. If you want to get into an Ivy League school, he has connections and stuff like that. I tell you guys all the time, college is a scam, but I've always told you guys, if you can get into an Ivy League school, absolutely take that opportunity because the alumni network and the connections is what makes everything.
Yeah, because for instance, let's use a great example of the chat, right? Let's say there's 3 to 5 people, even 10 people who are upset or you didn't go to Harvard or blah, 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 blah. You can say that, but my credentials don't say that. So I don't care because I can get a better job than you can off the fact that I just visited to touch the ground. You know what I mean? So it's very useful. I agree with Myron. I think college is kind of a waste now. Education system is kind of a waste, but Ivy League schools outside of Yale, because you don't want to die because the campus is ghetto as hell. Very useful. Very useful.
Princeton has a nice campus, bro.
Yeah, Princeton
I ain't gonna lie.
does.
Princeton is fucking nice.
I mean, you're just paying for validity, man. You could be the smartest guy on planet Earth. You still need a piece of paper sometimes.
They have a
to get
super
the
nice
validity.
boathouse too. For rowing.
Princeton, see, I like Harvard. I mean, I never say go Crimson because Harvard sucks, but like,
No, y'all got a good rowing team, bro.
yeah, I
Very
never
good
paid
rowing
attention to
team.
the rowing team.
Yeah. The other sports suck though.
Yeah, they're trash.
Yeah, everything
I
else is
think
trash.
the biggest thing out of there was Jeremy Lin for me.
Oh
as a
yeah,
basketball
Jeremy Lin
person.
did go to Harvard.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Yo, Chad, thank you so much for coming out, bro, and helping out with the tech stuff, running the cameras,
Thank you.
and giving us your background on psychology and kind of giving us another perspective. Because sometimes it can be an echo chamber, and it's good to bring someone that's kind of like an expert in that field. Because we've always suspected that psychology is being dominated by women, and like to have you come and like kind of confirm it, like, yeah, bro, it's 80-20 right now on the psychology side. Psychiatry is like 70-30.
Time to eliminate the welfare lifestyle. Trump's HUD secretary is basically breaking down plans so that they can eliminate it and people that are on social services for the rest of their life. I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. Thank you, Keith Murphy. Thank you, John McGuire. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Let's rock.
Welcome back. Congress hammering out key provisions of President Trump's big, beautiful bill, some of which could result in funding cuts to welfare programs. The president requesting certain cuts from the Housing and Urban Development Department, including more than $26 billion in state rental and grants and over $700 million in other assistance programs. Joining me now is Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for being here. What are you expecting?
Oh, we so mad that it's a black man. Trump doesn't hire any black people a part of his cabinet. They didn't give him any kind of talk time on all of these liberal media stations.
In terms of these welfare cuts, and where do you expect the biggest cuts to be made?
Well, good morning, Maria. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again. The president, my colleagues from the Senate and the House, this administration, we're all taking inventory and getting our fiscal house in order. As you know, the previous 4 years before we came, there were no checks and no balances, no transparency, and a lack of good stewardship in America's budget and America's fiscal house. And so, along with my colleagues on the Hill, we here at HUD are taking inventory of every program so that we could be sufficient and effective in serving the American people. This is the first step when you talk about the skinny budget. It's the first step of many in this process. Our job here at HUD is to maximize the budget that we do have and make sure that we're serving America's people in the critical programs that we have.
So do you expect cuts to those welfare programs, and how significant will the cuts be? Where specifically are you expecting the cuts, sir?
I think not so much cuts only, Maria, but
people that's on welfare don't really vote anyway, so we're not tripping about it. It's not like it's going to affect our political future. Most people that are permanently, not people that are temporarily. Everybody need a little bit of help sometimes, and that's why we pay our taxes and we created the programs. It's not supposed to be a permanent program. But people that are permanently on welfare, they not voting. They usually got a lot of kids that they got to take care of.
Also, how we administer the programs. One thing at HUD, we're very mission-minded, and we understand, our call here to serve the American people. We'll see when the budget comes out what we have to work with. Our job is to maximize this budget and to make sure that we're serving America's most vulnerable people as it pertains to housing and homelessness and disaster recovery.
Mr. Secretary, you co-wrote a New York Times op-ed along with RFK Jr., Brooke Rollins, Dr. Oz. You suggested that there should be new qualifications to receive the welfare benefits. You write, able-bodied adults receiving benefits must work, participate in job training, or volunteer in their communities at least 20 hours a week.
Oh, I heard about this one. And people were mad. They were mad. They were pissed off to the top of the pissivity level. They said, what? What do you mean able-bodied adults that get welfare, social services, got to do job training, or they got to be in school, or they got to do at least 20 hours a week volunteer? What do you mean? If I get free housing, I get free housing. If I get food stamps, I get food stamps. I don't want to train to actually get myself off of it. They are mad. And I heard one person say, why I got to come from a black man? Why a black man got to be the face of making sure that we get off of social services? What? It'll make you never want to do it again. It'll make you never want to do it again. I remember, this is going to be completely unrelated, but follow me here on the Millionaire Derailment Show. I remember when I was a much younger man and going back and forth with the police, and then didn't realize that I was spending more on lawyers, making sure that I kept myself out of jail. Instead of just going and getting my license and doing the right thing and abiding by the law, I had a suspended license. And then on that suspended license, I said, I don't care nothing about that. It ain't like I'm not going to drive anyway. And then I got caught driving while my license was suspended. And the judge, he said, Mr. Daniels, got a lengthy rap sheet here as far as your ability to not follow the law when it comes to driving. Got a couple racing tickets on here, drag racing. Looks like you've been speeding, run a red light, doing a 65 and 35. Okay, Mr. Daniels, he said, listen, this is what we're going to do. I was looking at my lawyer. I said, wait a minute, this ain't going the way that I thought we was going to go. He said, this is what we're going to do, Mr. Daniels. You're going to have to do volunteer work on Saturdays and Sundays, and I don't want you driving for at least 30 days. And I said, I clutched my pearls. I said, no way. He said, yes way, Mr. Daniels. For 30 days, you're not going to be driving. And this upcoming weekend, you're going to be doing community service. I said, God, Lord, rebuke the devil. So, one of the things that I had to do with community service the first day, I had to go pick up some trash. You know, the people that be in them vests that be on the side of the road, that's what we was doing. And then the second day, that was Saturday. And then Sunday, we had to go paint. Yep. Had to go paint a community center that may or may not have ever opened. And so we had to go in there. And so some guys had a bad attitude and some girls had a bad attitude. And then one thing I think that they need to do is they need to separate the men from the women, because all the dudes was trying to do was holler at the women. That was Dusty. And I was thinking to myself, she in here with us doing community service, which means that she ain't got her life together. So why are y'all trying to holler at her so that y'all can both be Dusty together? I'm going to just go ahead and do my painting. And so we would paint. I was painting the community service, and we had to do that for 8 hours. The moral of the story is me being forced to do work and to suffer as a result of it, that led me to never wanting to do it again, because I didn't want my weekends to be controlled by what they had going on. I had to go over there and pick up trash and do community service. And some guys was trying to cover up their face just in case somebody drove by so that they couldn't say, oh man, I seen you picking up trash on the side of the road. What'd you do? You know what I'm saying? So it made me never want to ever have a suspended license again. So what did I do? Made sure that I obeyed the law. Did not get in any more trouble for the next 30 days. Went and got my license. And they never heard from me again. So now, 20 years later, because that was when I was a much younger man. Now, 20 years later, when they pull me over and they say, Mr. Daniels, how was your driving record? And I say, stellar, sir. And they go and they look at my driving record. They say, this is what they say to me. This is what they say to me. They say, wow. They say, man, you had a rough time back in your 20s. They still got all of that. You had a rough time, 15, 20 years ago, Mr. Daniels, but I don't see nothing on here from the last 15 years. Yes, sir. Straight as an arrow. Straight as an arrow, sir. Like, all right, you know what? We don't want to mess up this stellar record. Go ahead on your way, Mr. Daniels. But my point is that when you are
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.